Chapter 371. These two names. They were the first names that Lin Yu thought of. One was Qin Yi, the only woman who remembered him after he escaped. Even Lin Yu couldn't find the other woman. That was when he was trapped for more than 37,000 years. The woman he met in this star field. She was also the only woman Lin Yu felt that she had 10 points. She gathered all the beauties of all the women in the world. Unfortunately, I can't find her. Lin Yu sighed softly. This was what he found the strangest. At that moment of spring night, the woman gave him the most precious thing. Then, when Lin Yu said that it would reset to the next day and the third day. But he couldn't find her anymore. Anyone who had been trapped for 100,000 years seemed to have returned to the starting point once the sun rose. Only that mysterious woman was an exception. Forget it. This was the biggest doubt in Lin Yu's heart, and it was an unsolvable doubt, because he had never seen that woman a second time. Not thinking too much about this, Lin Yu made up his mind. Before that old man emperor goes back on his word, I'll go back to the low-key sect tomorrow and bring her here. I'll also find some feelings of love with Yi. Thinking of this, Lin Yu fell into a deep sleep. Only Han Wanqing was still pretending to close her eyes. But when she heard Lin Yu's steady and quiet breathing, she knew that the latter had already fallen asleep. Han Wanqing heaved a sigh of relief. However, she felt that her heart was thwarted. One of the three great beauties of the Zither Emperor's sect was lying beside him. Yet Lin Yu was still indifferent? Could it be that she was too shy just now? But she had never had any experience, so it was hard not to be shy. Han Wanqing thought back and forth, and also fell into a deep sleep. The next day, when Lin Yu woke up, Han Wanqing had already brought out the dishes she had prepared. It was pretty good. Late autumn was coming. The morning was starting to get a little cold. It caused a warm mist to rise from Han Wanqing's porridge and side dishes. Lin Yu got out of bed and started eating. Han Wanqing didn't sit down. Instead, she stood obediently beside Lin Yu. Sir, please eat more. I've also left some food for Sir Yang. Sir, you don't have to leave any food for Sir Yang. Don't stay. Just starve to death. Thinking about his present, Lin Yu waved his hand and said, Han Wanqing was stunned. It's okay, I'm just kidding. Lin Yu explained, why aren't you eating? Sir, I'll eat after you're done. Han Wanqing picked up some food for Lin Yu. Wanqing's life was saved by Milord. Even if Milord wants me to be an ox or a horse, Wanqing will not complain. Then why did you pretend to sleep last night? Lin Yu swallowed the porridge in his mouth and said, Han Wanqing blushed. If Lin Yu did that kind of thing, how could she not pretend to be asleep? That's right. When Han Wanqing didn't know how to reply, Lin Yu became serious. I'm going back to the inner territory. You can stay here. Inner territory? Han Wanqing was puzzled. Lin Yu casually explained his origin. So Sir is from the inner territory's low-key sect. This low-key sect's name is really interesting. After Han Wanqing finished speaking, she saw that Lin Yu had already stood up. I'm going to have a few words with the Emperor Master, then I'll leave. If Yang Kai wakes up, tell him to come find me. After saying that, Lin Yu left in a huff. Han Wanqing rubbed her jade hands in her clothes. She saw that Lin Yu still had a lot of food left. Han Wanqing looked at Lin Yu's back as he left. She didn't want to stay here alone, but she didn't have a chance to say it. Inside the Emperor Palace, Lin Yu's status was now revered. He no longer needed any notice and entered the palace unimpeded. Lin Yu, are you used to my Zither Emperor's sect? The Emperor Master stroked his beard and said. Seeing that Lin Yu was about to bow, he immediately raised his hand. You're my savior. There's no need for formalities, lest you kill me because you're in a bad mood. The Emperor Master thought. Lin Yu was too lazy to guess what the Emperor Master was thinking. He directly explained that he was going back to the low-profile sect. This is simple. After all, I promised you. The Emperor Master frowned. I'm just worried that you'll encounter danger along the way. Do you need someone to accompany you? There's no need for that. Lin Yu refused. Then if you run away, how are you going to treat my injuries? The Emperor Master cursed in his heart. He smiled and said, of course. Why don't you let old Sixth accompany you? Lin Yu could tell that the old Emperor Master was worried about him. It's a pity that His Highness the Sixth Prince is busy with the matters of the Fifth and Sixth Imperial cities. He probably doesn't have time. His Highness can come with me to play. Lin Yu smiled faintly. When the Emperor Master heard that Lin Yu wanted to bring Bai Xuechen along, he nodded in agreement. Then he said, Old Sixth, come along too. It won't be too late to do the matters of the Imperial City later. Lin Yu hadn't said anything yet. The Emperor Master didn't plan to give him a chance to refuse. A decree was transmitted through voice transmission. In the 6th Imperial City and the 1st Imperial City, Bai Xuechen and His Highness the 6th Prince immediately heard the Emperor Master's voice transmission. Go to the inner region? Bai Xuechen took off the coat that Lin Yu had covered him with. Interesting. It's good to accompany Brother Lin for a walk. Inside the Emperor Palace. This matter has been arranged. The Emperor Master smiled and said, When are you leaving? I can leave now. With that, Lin Yu took his leave. When he reached the door, he still reminded him. Emperor Master, you have to be careful when you cultivate. I'm afraid there will be some unrest in the 7 imperial cities. Lin Yu could already feel the undercurrents in the Zither Emperor's sect. Yafei was definitely not the only danger. There was also the person behind her. There was also that Second Highness, who Lin Yu felt had changed into a different person. I'll remember it. The Emperor Master nodded. This was the first time he had seen Lin Yu so serious. Lord Confidant, have you discovered something? Lin Yu replied truthfully, Not yet, but it's always right to be careful. He thought to himself, I still have to rely on you to enter the flower-blooming shore sky again. He didn't want the Emperor Master to be killed by someone by the time he found his feelings. That's true. You have only been in my Zither Emperor's sect for a short period of time. Without saying anything else, the Emperor Master waved his hand. Lin Yu left the Emperor Master's palace. Outside, after a while, the First Highness had already arranged for the flying warship. Above, His Highness the 6th Prince was also waiting for Lin Yu. They didn't bring anyone with them. At this moment, only Yang Kai, the 1st Prince, and the 6th Prince are on the ship. In the 7th Imperial City, Lien Yin also received the news that Lin Yu was leaving the Zither Emperor's sect. Your Highness, what should we do? Chen Rusu asked. Let Lord Confidant go. Lien Yin thought about how she still had to arrange for the changes to the blacklist. I won't join in the fun. The warship took off. Only then did Han Wanqing muster up her courage and step on the air towards Lin Yu. Lord, please take Wanqing with you. Her slightly pleading gaze would make any man's heart soften. Come up. Lin Yu waved his hand. Han Wanqing bowed and thanked him, then also got on the warship. The warship took the 5 people away and left the Zither Emperor's sect's territory in the blink of an eye. However, after they left, in the 2nd Imperial City, a terrifying suction force erupted. This suction force devoured cultivation. It gradually spread from the First Highness Mansion. Chapter 372. After the change in the 2nd Imperial City, the powerful suction force appeared again in the 3rd, 4th, and 5th Imperial Cities. The suction force was a cloud of black mist. It appeared from the 2nd Imperial City and enveloped the 4 Imperial Cities. Time's up. The source of the black mist above the 2nd Prince's residence was pitch black. Only a pair of ferocious eyes were open. These eyes didn't look at the Imperial City, where countless soldiers and ministers were swallowed by the black mist. Instead, they stared in the direction of the Emperor Palace. It was as if that was his biggest goal. Outside the Emperor's gate, Lin Yu's warship had arrived. Loud footsteps shook the air as the Realm Guardian appeared with his saber. He immediately recognized Lin Yu. He wanted to raise his saber. Han Wanqing and the 6th Prince were so scared that their hearts tightened. Just as they were about to attack, Lin Yu had already taken out the Emperor token. I'm not in the mood to play with you this time, Lin Yu said. The Realm Guardian hesitated for a moment before putting down his saber. The World Crossing gate opened. What greeted them was the inner area, where the concentration of Yao Qi was slightly thinner. Confidant, you came from here? Bai Xuechen stood with her hands behind her back. Her clean white robe was as gentle as jade. Only Lin Yu knew that this kid looked gentle but was actually very strong. Otherwise, how could he stun the other highnesses with just one sentence? No. Lin Yu shook his head. I came from the thatched hut. Thatched hut? The 6th Prince was immediately puzzled. This king has never heard of that place. It's a very ordinary place. Lin Yu's eyes revealed a look of reminiscence. He could go back to the thatched hut at any time, but not now. That was the origin of resetting 100,000 years. He woke up there after more than 30 million repetitions of the morning. The secret of the thatched hut was hidden in Lin Yu's heart. No one else knew where it was. The inner area seems to be a little different. Yang Kai looked ahead at the warships that were fleeing in a hurry and couldn't help but frown. What are they running for? We'll know when we ask. His Highness Six raised his right hand, and a warship about 30 meters away from them immediately felt a tyrannical suction force. Law. This is the law. There were only 3 people on the battleship, 2 men and 1 woman, who were being pulled toward Lin Yu's battleship. Sir, spare my life. How could the 3 of them not see that the suction force was coming from this warship? You're fleeing? Sixth Highness asked. This has nothing to do with us. Nothing to do with us. The 3 of them knelt down and cowed out. Their battle prowess was not high, and the strongest one was only at the unshakable realm. Don't be afraid. We're good people. Lin Yu smiled brightly and helped the 3 of them up. I am Lin Yu. What you're talking about is none of your business. Can you tell me what it is? You're Lin Yu, master of the low-key sect, one of the 12 elders of the celestial sect of wonders. Lin Yu. Lin Yu nodded. That's me. The leader of the 3 looked troubled and said, Sect Master Lin, the Shura Emperor's sect attacked the celestial sect of wonders. Hundreds of thousands of people in the celestial sect of wonders have all died. The other person nodded in horror. It's too scary. They killed everyone they saw. We were just doing business in the celestial sect of wonders, but we were almost implicated. The 3 of them described a few sentences to Lin Yu one after another, as if Yang Kai and the others were listening to scenes of purgatory. It seems that the celestial sect of wonders made a mistake. Lin Yu muttered and waved his hand. The 3 of them immediately returned to their battleship and continued fleeing. Sir Confidant, should we stop the Shura Emperor sect? Han Wanqing asked. Lin Yu rubbed his chin and remained calm. Xiao Bai, what do you think? Bai Xuechen was stunned. Xiao Bai? Could it be that he was referring to himself? He looked around and confirmed that Lin Yu was asking him. This matter is not simple. The Emperor's sects usually don't interfere in the affairs of the inner regions. Bai Xuechen didn't say it explicitly, but the 6th Prince, Han Wanqing, and the others understood. The core region was much stronger than the inner regions. But just like the outer regions were responsible for sending talents to the inner regions. It was the same for the inner regions. These people from the inner regions would become the key to the entire star field in the future. Therefore, if any of the Emperor's sects wanted to attack the inner regions, they had to obtain the consent of more than the 4 great Emperor sects. This was the rule set by the 8 great Emperor sects. But now, the Shura Emperor sect dared to attack. Either they weren't worried about the other Emperor sect's objections, or they were attacking with more than the 4 great Emperor sects' consent. Let's go and take a look first. Lin Yu sighed softly. He vaguely guessed part of the reason. He had once told the people of the celestial sect of wonders that since the floating life demon sect had suffered heavy losses, they shouldn't make things difficult for the ordinary people of the sect. It seemed that the people of the celestial sect of wonders didn't listen. Yang Kai thought that Lin Yu would go out of the celestial sect of wonders. He didn't expect that Lin Yu would go to the floating life demon sect first. The closer they got to the land where the floating life demon sect was located, the 5 of them smelled the stench of blood. They knew that the warship had stopped above the floating life demon sect. Yang Kai, Han Wanqing, and the others looked down and couldn't help but feel their hearts tighten. There are more than 100,000 corpses below. The warship swept across the sky, and everywhere it went, corpses were visible to the naked eye. These people seemed to be mortals. Han Wanqing didn't feel much glory chi on these corpses. They are indeed ordinary people. Lin Yu's gaze fell on the corpses, and he closed his eyes. After scanning with his divine sense, he quickly opened his eyes. The celestial sect of wonders did this. He sighed softly. The warship rose into the sky, and headed towards the celestial sect of wonders. Lin Yu chose to use the teleportation array. Except for Yang Kai, everyone else, including Bai Xuechen, was stunned. "Sir, why is there a teleportation array in the starry sky?" The five of them only felt their vision go dark, and when they appeared again, they were already above the celestial sect of wonders. "I guessed," Lin Yu prevaricated, frowning as he looked down at the celestial sect of wonders. The floating life demon sect had become a dead city, and in the celestial sect of wonders 8 palaces below, the smell of blood was even stronger. The smell that assailed their noses made Han Wanqing and the Sixth Prince take a few steps back. There should have been a great battle here just now. The time of death is no more than 10 hours. The Sixth Prince and Bai Xuechen judged one after another. Yang Kai looked at the scene in front of him. Back then, Lin Yu had personally commanded the 4 armies to resist the invasion of the floating life demon sect and the Bodhi sect. In that battle, more than 30,000 people from the celestial sect of wonders died. But because Lin Yu finally stepped into the immortal Grand Elder Realm, he killed the sect master of the floating life demon sect, Yin Daosheng, and the vice sect master. That battle saved the celestial sect of wonders. But now, in front of him, the 8 palaces had been destroyed. Hundreds of thousands of people died, forming rivers of blood. This was a true city of death. The warships circled around for a long time. Even the Sixth Prince, Han Wanqing, and the others immediately got off the warship, wanted to see if there were any survivors. Unfortunately, they searched around. The 4 of them shook their heads at Lin Yu. Lin Yu touched his chin. If revenge breeds revenge, will it ever end? Things are getting troublesome. Chapter 373. The floating life demon sect colluded with the Azura Emperor sect in the past, but I didn't expect that the Azura Emperor sect would come personally to avenge them. Yang Kai sighed. The Xian sect has taken the wrong path. Lin Yu suddenly had a bad feeling. Since they're here, they might drag the subtle sect into it. As soon as these words came out, Yang Kai's expression changed. They dare. Bai Xuechen and the Sixth Prince looked at each other. The Emperor's sect's value benefits greatly. The Azura Emperor sect must have paid a heavy price to get the agreement of the 4 great Emperor sects. So, besides taking revenge, they definitely won't return empty-handed. The 2 said one after the other. Interesting. Let's go take a look. Lin Yu changed the direction of the warship and looked for the nearest transmission array to the subtle sect. Outside the subtle sect, Qin Wenyan was wearing a purple robe, his youthful face exuding a heroic aura. 4 swords, 5 ultimate god-killing array form. Yes. Behind him, Long Lin, Lu Wuhan, sword maniac, Yang Qing, Yao Gu, and Xiu Lingshan, the 5 wind and moon fairies, all released their strength at the same time. The 4 swords and the 5 ultimate wind and moon fairies merged into the sky, and an earth-shattering array immediately appeared above the subtle sect. Qin Wenyan raised his hands, and the array seemed to be half the sky in his hands. Do you think you can break my subtle sect as you wish? In front of him, an army that covered the sky was attacking the subtle sect. There were at least 100,000 of them. Every one of them exuded the aura of an emperor's sect. A small sect in the inner territory can actually resist us for so long? With the great general here, they won't be able to hold on for long. At the center of the Azura Emperor's sect's army, a man and a woman were standing. Your Highness, it's about time. The man was an old man, and he spoke respectfully to the beautiful woman beside him. Great Master Mo Yin, no need to be so polite. The beautiful woman looked down with her bright eyes and took a step forward. Let Lin Yu come out, or I'll massacre the subtle sect. Qin Wenyan's lips curled. Demon Emperor's sect master. Do you think you can meet him? Presumptuous. The beautiful woman's pretty face was filled with anger, and a law rumbled as it descended. Qin Wenyan frowned and attacked. Exerting force with both hands, the 4 swords' 5 ultimate god-killing grand array smashed out. The laws collided with the array formation. Terrifying fluctuations erupted in all directions. The beautiful woman coldly snorted. Although this formation is strong, it depends on who is using it. You guys are too weak compared to him. She raised her left hand, and the second law appeared once more. Damn it, second layer of laws. Lu Wuhan and the others gasped. The Azura Emperor sect had actually sent a second layer of the laws expert to the inner region. In the entire inner region, there was not a single powerhouse whose battle prowess had reached the second firmament of laws. The second law descended. Qin Wunyan immediately spewed out a mouthful of blood. The god-killing array in his hand also began to crack. We can't let them attack. Gu Qinji, Dongwang Feiyu, and the others all raised their combat strength to the extreme. Your Highness, we can launch a large-scale attack now. The plain-clothed old man beside the beautiful woman spoke again. He looked like an ordinary old man, but between his brows there was a murderous aura. In just 2 hours, this old man is confident that I can wipe out this sect. Hearing this, the beautiful woman hesitated for a long time before gritting her teeth and raising her hand. You can surrender now. The beautiful woman spoke indifferently. At the same time, she raised her hand. The 100,000 Azura army roared in unison. Their momentum was vast, like heavenly thunder descending. The wind and clouds above low-key sect swirled. Many people below were injured, but their faces were firm, without the slightest hint of fear. Surrender. My low-key sect can be killed, but not humiliated. The sect master has gone to the core for some time, and we haven't fought for a long time. Lu Wuhan looked at Long Lin. Old Long, you've improved a lot recently. Later, this old man will compete with you to see who can kill more people. Long Lin's face was still paralyzed. You can't compare to me. On the other side, Qin Wunyan and the others were also commanding the entire sect. 12 elder palaces, listen to my order. Whoever dares to bully my low-key sect, kill without mercy. In the sky, the old man sneered. How can an ant shake the heavens and earth? Ridiculous. You're a bit like the people he taught. The beautiful woman spoke in a low voice. Your Highness's identity is different now. It's time to cut off everything in the past. The old man's tone seemed gentle, but in fact, it carried a hint of warning. This is also the best way for your Highness to repay the Emperor. The beautiful woman closed her eyes, and at the same time, her hand fell. The army was ready to attack. However, her hand suddenly froze in midair. Who's there? The old man at the side widened his eyes. He didn't notice how this person appeared. And how did he grab the beautiful woman's wrist like a ghost? Yin Xiao, long time no see. A frivolous but domineering voice sounded. Lin Yu had one hand behind his back, and the other holding the beautiful woman's hand in front of him. His fine black hair fluttered. Lin Yu's tall and thin figure was wrapped in black clothes. The corner of his mouth rose as he spoke to Yin Xiao, the demoness of the demon sect of bliss. You're finally here. Yin Xiao slowly opened her eyes. Her bright eyes were already filled with killing intent and decisiveness. However, the moment she saw Lin Yu with her own eyes, this killing intent and decisiveness immediately weakened by a lot. Lin Yu wasn't the only one who appeared. At this moment, above the Azura army, a warship broke through the sky and descended. This warship wasn't big, but in the sky, it erupted with power that made everyone's attention and fear. It was the aura of 4 law realm powerhouses. Law. For laws. There's even a second firmament law. Seeing this, the Azura army's morale was shaken. Did you go to get reinforcements? Is that why you only appeared now? Yin Xiao said coldly. Lin Yu blinked, not really. I was just passing by. Nonsense. Yin Xiao's expression was slightly angry. What I hate the most is your nonsense appearance. Her words were law, and Lin Yu actually felt a life-and-death crisis. Looking up, he saw 2 laws directly engulfing him. Sect Master. Oh no, Sect Master is in danger. The people of low-profile sect were originally excited that Lin Yu could return in time. However, who would have thought that Lin Yu would rush directly into the local camp? Blood Moon. Yin Xiaoxiao's combat strength erupted. A scarlet moon appeared in her right hand and smashed towards Lin Yu's location. In her other hand, a purple sun condensed instantly. Purple sun, a cold voice sounded. Yin Xiaoxiao's aura of a second firmament law attacked Lin Yu. A boom spread in all directions. The skies seemed to be separated by purple and blood as the purple sun and blood moon instantly engulfed Lin Yu. Sir, Han Wanqing and Yang Kai attacked at the same time. However, in front of the two of them, hundreds of people from the Azura army rushed over. Dozens of supreme auras and hundreds of invincible realm auras blocked in front of the two of them. Chapter 374. That brat overestimated himself and provoked the Empress. He deserves to die. You're going to die too. Take care of yourselves first. Jeers came from the army. But in the next moment, an overwhelming bolt of lightning suddenly fell from the sky. It was so fast that the hundreds of Shura army soldiers could not react in time. They were directly swallowed by the lightning. Immediately, mournful cries spread. The lightning was like a dragon, destroying all life. Bai Xuechen stretched lazily and stepped on the lightning, not caring that the hundreds of people under her feet had been reduced to ashes. Thunder Principal, you are the old man next to Empress Yin. Xiao stared at Bai Xuechen in fear. Legend has it that the First Highness of Zither Emperor Sect is the only one who comprehended the Thunder Principle. Her combat strength far surpasses those of the same level. I heard that the Shura Emperor Sect has 3 generals. The oldest one is also the weakest. I think he's called Yin Tuesday. A domineering light flashed across Bai Xuechen's elegant face. Low-profile sect is the territory of this king's confidant. Have you asked this king if you want to touch this place? Huh. Yin Tu took a few steps forward, and 2 flames, one red and one black, appear behind him. Why should the Shura Emperor Sect explain to your Zither Emperor Sect? Today, this old man will use these 2 strange fire principles to see if my fire is more powerful or the First Highness lightning. You might die after seeing it. Bai Xuechen stroked her long hair. His calm tone was full of arrogance and killing intent, which was somewhat similar to Lin Yu's. Big brother, the 6th Highness, Yang Kai, and the others also rushed over. I don't need you here. Bai Xuechen waved her hand. The 6th Highness understood and rushed to Lin Yu's side to attack Yin Xiaoxiao. Thunder and fire exploded. The First Highness is so careless. Your friend has probably died under the Emperor's principle. How can you still be so calm? Yin Tu turned his body into a sea of fire, and the entire sky suddenly heated up. Although I don't know when the Shura Emperor Sect has an Empress, unfortunately, you underestimate my friend too much. Bai Xuechen raised her hands, and a sea of lightning descended. In another direction, the Shura army blocked in front of Yin Xiaoxiao. The 6th Highness and the others could not pass and were forcefully held. At this time, when the Blood Moon and Purple Sun principles disappeared, I almost died in your hands. Golden light soared into the sky as Lin Yu slowly stepped out. Under the state of the indestructible golden body, he didn't seem injured at all. It's this golden body that killed my father. Yin Xiaoxiao stared coldly at Lin Yu as killing intent flashed in her eyes. At this moment, she was no longer the enchanting but innocent little demoness from before. The current Yin Xiaoxiao, regardless of whether it was her strength or temperament, had risen by a few levels. She took a step forward. She was still 30 feet away from Lin Yu, but in the next moment, Lin Yu felt his vision darken. Yin Xiaoxiao's foot had already swept over. Lin Yu slowly raised her right hand, and her jade-like foot struck the indestructible golden body, producing a clanging sound. But Lin Yu was still as calm as ever. Bastard! Yin Xiaoxiao retracted her foot, and the 2 laws instantly merged in front of Lin Yu. The Purple Sun and Blood Moon laws spun rapidly, forming a wild vortex that enveloped Lin Yu. You've improved quite a bit. Lin Yu smiled faintly and raised his right hand. The Grim Reaper behind him passed through and slashed down. Boom! Boom! The battle between the three sides in the sky erupted instantly. Below, the Azura army also charged towards the people from low-profile sect. Yin Xiaoxiao took a step back and stared at Lin Yu in shock and indignation. I've stepped into the second firmament of laws, but I still can't beat you. She shook her head self-deprecatingly, and a trail of blood flowed out of her right arm. She had actually lost to Lin Yu in that move, just now. You force your way in. Your combat strength is too overrated. Lin Yu sighed softly and did not attack again. Instead, he looked at the battle below. Over there, Si Xiaoxian was also in low-profile sex camp. She escaped and tipped us off. Otherwise, your low-profile sect would have been destroyed long ago. Yin Xiaoxiao explained. Lin Yu spread his hands. Xin's sect is gone, and you've already taken your revenge. Why are you attacking my low-profile sect? That's my mission. Yin Xiaoxiao raised her hand, and the purple sun and blood moon merged into her arm. Lin Yu, make your move. Today, only one of us can live. Azura Emperor's sex mission? Lin Yu smiled calmly. In this smile, it seemed that he had already put the Azura Emperor's sect on his must-kill list. I'm very vengeful. He could see the Yin Xiaoxiao had her difficulties. However, those were not important. Lin Yu was more interested in one of the three Azura generals. Mo, Lin, Tuesday, if you want to fight, then come. Lin Yu attacked resolutely. His immortal golden body instantly erupted, and his figure teleported. Before Yin Xiaoxiao could react, he was already close to her. Lin Yu, I have no choice. Yin Xiaoxiao gritted her teeth, and the law in her right hand collided with Lin Yu's fist once again. On the other side, Mo Yin too was beaten back by Xuechen. This king said that you might die. Mo Yin too's old face changed. Stop him for me. After saying that, thousands of Azura army soldiers appeared in front of Xuechen. Xuechen turned his head. It turned out that Lin Yu had already grabbed Yin Xiaoxiao's hand. The Azura Emperor's sect's new princess raised her Yiksha scythe. Her life was hanging by a thread. This old guy can't beat me, and he still wants to save the situation? Xuechen rubbed his forehead and raised his hand. The sea of lightning turned into a lightning dragon. He slowly stepped forward, and the dried corpses swallowed by the lightning fell like raindrops. On the other side, Mo Yin too rushed towards Lin Yu. He was shocked. The princess's combat power was not below his. How did this Lin Yu defeat the princess? It's too late. Mo Yin too gritted his teeth and scratched his palm with his fingertips. Dark red seeped out his palm. Mo Yin too's hands formed a seal, and in the sky above Lin Yu, a round bronze door suddenly appeared. Azura Gate, open. Mo Yin too roared. The bronze door was 3 feet wide, and at the same time, it crazily rotated. In the next moment, the bronze door opened in the middle. A terrifying suction force directly enveloped Lin Yu. Ancestors' death realm, alternate space continent, die for this old man. Mo Yin too sneered. When the Shura Gate appeared, they saw that Lin Yu had already dispersed and the Grim Reaper had passed through. Instead, he smiled faintly at Mo Yin too. Only the 3 generals can open the Azura Gate. Thank you, Lin Yu said, and his body was already sucked into the Azura Gate. Something's wrong. This kid is doing it on purpose. Mo Yin too felt something was wrong and shouted from afar. Princess, stop him. Bastard, what are you trying to do? Yin Xiaoxiao cursed in her heart. She stepped into the air and was also enveloped by the suction force of the Azura Gate. Swoosh! The two disappeared from the battlefield at the same time. This is bad. That kid is weird. Mo Yin too gritted his teeth. 100,000 troops listen to my order. Kill the low-key sect with all your strength. Yes. In an instant, the Azura army's attack increased. But at the same time, in the heaven lake behind the low-key sect, there was a huge 9-colored egg that was originally motionless, as if it was sleeping soundly. Suddenly it shook. Chapter 375. In the midst of the tremors, a terrifying deterrent force seemed to have erupted. With Tian Chi as the center, it instantly spread out, This deterrent force swept across everyone in the Shura army. At this moment, those whose cultivation base was below the Grand Supreme stage actually felt their divine thoughts roar. What is this? So dizzy. They only felt a stabbing pain in their heads. Swoosh, swoosh. The Shura army fell one after another. 100 people, 1,000 people, 10,000 people, 30,000 people, 50,000 people. Batches of people directly fainted under this deterrent force. Everyone in the low-key sect and Mo Yintu in the sky saw this scene, and all of them were in a state of shock. Out of the 100,000 army, 99,000 people directly fell. Not only those below the Grand Supreme stage, but even those who were in the early stage of the Grand Supreme stage could not resist this terrifying deterrent force and also fainted. Densely packed people fainted in the sky and fell like rain. The sound of bodies hitting the ground kept coming from the ground. What's going on? Tianqi, it's the sect master's egg. Our sect guardian divine beast of the low-key sect has shown its power. At this moment, the nine-colored egg had already calmed down, as if it had fallen into a deep sleep again. But there were only 1,000 people left in the Shura army. These 1,000 people, even if they were the ones with the highest cultivation base. But looking at the situation in front of them, where the entire army was almost wiped out, they did not have the heart to fight. The sect of the Confidant is not simple. Bai Xuechen looked in the direction of Tianqi with fear. The place was shrouded in thick white fog, and he could not see what was going on. And there seemed to be a resistance that seemed to be blocking his divine thoughts from looking. Master Emolientu, what should we do now? The Shura army was defeated like a mountain. This scene came too quickly. Even their opponent, the low-key sect, did not have time to react. Let's go. Emolientu knew that it was impossible to take down the low-key sect. He and Bai Xuechen were the same. They could not see the source of that terrifying deterrent force. Not only that, with Bai Xuechen and the others, he also knew that they were destined to lose today. I did not expect that the difficulty of taking down the low-key sect would be higher than the Xian sect. Emolientu snorted angrily. Retreat. Master, what about the princess? We can't control her. He remembered that Lin Yu had tricked him into opening the Shura gate. Emolientu felt uneasy in his heart. His hands formed a seal and closed the Shura gate in the sky. The Azura army retreated. Bai Xuechen shook her head reluctantly. However, he still frowned. That Shura gate leads to the alternate dimension that Emperor Shura created. Why would a close friend go there? Big brother, what about our trusted subordinate? His Highness the Sixth Prince came to Bai Xuechen's side and asked worriedly. I don't know much about the Shura sect. Everyone from the low-key sect had also arrived. Hearing Bai Xuechen shaking her head, she said, but Confidant obviously wanted to go in himself. Otherwise, with Emolientu's slow speed, how could he trap him in? Alien Void Continent. These were broken continents that had existed for an unknown number of years, floating in the starry sky of another world. From several zhang to several hundred zhang, thousands of continents of different sizes floated here. At this moment, the fluctuations of battle resounded throughout the continent. Yin Xiao, that's enough. Lin Yu was getting impatient. The duration of the invincible golden body was running out. However, Yin Xiao still attacked him relentlessly. What do you want to do here? Yin Xiao stepped into the air. Two laws rumbled and shattered the continent under Lin Yu's feet. Rocks flew everywhere. Lin Yu shook his head helplessly. The black wings on his back spread open. The second style of the Great Void Yiksha was activated. This move was combined with the power of the Demon Cave. Yin Xiao felt that the entire alternate dimension had suddenly turned dark. At this moment, all the power in her body seemed to be sealed. Vision, hearing, touch, smell, all four senses were sealed. In the next moment, Yin Xiao felt a pair of hands hugging her from behind. The darkness dissipated. Yin Xiao regained her senses. Hearing the breathing behind her, she immediately tried to break free. Bastard, let go of me. No. Lin Yu smiled faintly. If I let go, you'll kill me again. You. Yin Xiaoxiao was furious. However, Lin Yu's body was much stronger than hers. Yin Xiaoxiao could not break free at all. Stupid Lin Yu, you didn't agree when I asked you to. It's too late for you to hug me now. Yin Xiaoxiao said resentfully. It's too late now. Her voice, which was as clear as a bell, gradually became hoarse. Yin Xiaoxiao lowered her head and stopped resisting. It's too late. Lin Yu let go of her helplessly. Yin Xiaoxiao immediately retreated with a teleport. You killed my father. I can't forgive you. Yin Xiaoxiao gritted her teeth. When she was about to attack again, she saw Lin Yu's eyes suddenly filled with killing intent. In Yin Xiaoxiao's mind, the fear of her four senses being sealed had yet to dissipate completely. At this moment, facing Lin Yu's eyes, she was terrified. If you don't stop, I'll really kill you. Lin Yu said coldly. Just as he spoke, the ground where the two of them were standing suddenly split apart. It was the fusion of Yixia's second move and Blackwing Nightfall. The continent was already unable to withstand it. Yin Xiaoxiao looked at all of this in shock. If this power had hit her just now, she would probably be dead by now. Not only can I not defeat you, but I can also die at your hands at any time like my father. Yin Xiaoxiao's entire body went limp on the ground. The princess's noble clothes outlined her fiery figure. However, Lin Yu was not in the mood to appreciate this. He had come here to take the key that belonged to Emperor Shura. Unfortunately, he had to take care of Yin Xiaoxiao before he could find it. Don't act recklessly if you know you'll die at my hands. Lin Yu walked closer to Yin Xiaoxiao and crouched down. He sized up the beauty in front of him. I thought you were already married to someone from the Shura Emperor's sect. So what if I am? Yin Xiaoxiao turned her face away. For some reason, her heart beat faster. That's strange. You're still a virgin? Lin Yu's words caused Yin Xiaoxiao's collarbone to flush red. What nonsense are you talking about? She was so angry that she panted heavily. However, Lin Yu shrugged non-committally. Forget it if you don't want to talk about it. Lin Yu stood up and looked around. When he was trapped in the same day for 100,000 years, he had tricked General Shura into opening the Shura door and entering this place. If I remember correctly, this should be, he searched for a while, confirmed a direction, and stepped into the air. Yin Xiaoxiao followed after Lin Yu when she saw him leave after saying a few strange things. Aren't you afraid of dying in my hands? I'm a princess. Do I have the responsibility to know what you're doing here? You're just curious, aren't you? Yin Xiaoxiao didn't want to answer him. Lin Yu glanced at the beauty flying beside him. You can follow me if you want, but first tell me what happened during this time. Chapter 376. You've already rejected me once. Why are you still concerned about my matters now? Yin Xiaoxiao's tone was filled with anger. However, it was more the hatred of a woman who couldn't get what she wanted. Lin Yu could only shrug his shoulders helplessly. Actually, I'm a man who doesn't have good luck with women. Lin Yu recalled being rejected by the Zither Emperor Zither. At that time, he had passed the difficult Dao Heart trial, but he had failed because of the word love. He looked at Yin Xiaoxiao with sincerity. It almost caused the other party's cultivation to become unstable. I don't want to talk to you anymore. Yin Xiaoxiao was silent for a long time. As Lin Yu continued to go deeper, Yin Xiaoxiao felt that his route was very strange. Didn't we just pass by here? Yes. Lin Yu nodded non-committally. Yin Xiaoxiao blinked her eyes. Why are we still walking? She roughly calculated that she and Lin Yu had been flying here for almost 2 hours. However, from the looks of it, they were actually going in circles. Lin Yu didn't explain further. Yin Xiaoxiao could only bite the bullet and follow him. Flying behind Lin Yu, Yin Xiaoxiao suddenly had a bitter feeling. Lin Yu wouldn't have thought of the grievances she had suffered during this period of time. Forget it. He won't care about anything about me. Yin Xiaoxiao thought so. After a few more hours, the two of them were still in the same place. Yin Xiaoxiao asked a few more times during this period, but Lin Yu still gave the same answer. They had passed by the same place 30 times. 40 times. Yin Xiaoxiao suddenly felt that Lin Yu was deliberately flying like this. Until the 49th time, the scenery in front of the two of them suddenly changed. What is this? Yin Xiaoxiao's eyes widened. She actually saw the broken continent in front of her. It was originally ordinary, but at this moment, it suddenly started to move rapidly. The broken continent moved together. Lin Yu waited quietly. An incomparably huge fused continent had already appeared in front of him. It's over? Yin Xiaoxiao was the empress, the woman of the emperor lord. However, she only knew that this was the place where the three great generals held prisoners on death row. Those who had committed grave crimes were trapped here to death. Because of this, they had seen hundreds of corpses on these continents. However, Yin Xiaoxiao had never heard of the continent moving on its own. But at this moment, when she thought it was over, the new continent changed once again after the fusion was completed. The hundreds of corpses on the ground sank into the ground at a speed visible to the naked eye. A vortex had appeared on the land. Even his eyes were no longer the color of the earth. Instead, it was scarlet. Demon refining blood pool. Lin Yu suddenly spoke. Demon refining blood pool. Yin Xiaoxiao did not know why this place had changed, but she had heard of the demon refining blood pool. That was the best place to temper one's body. It was also the lost holy land of the Ashura Emperor sect. The descendants of the Ashura Emperor sect hadn't found the demon refining blood pool for thousands of years since the imperial era. 10,000 years ago, Emperor Ashura ascended to great emperor here. Lin Yu spoke again. But Yin Xiaoxiao stared at him and asked in shock, "How did you know about this place?" "I came here more than 80 times before I figured out how to do it." Lin Yu seemed to be talking to himself. Emperor Shura hid this place too well. Yin Xiaoxiao was confused. Before she could ask, Lin Yu stepped forward. "What are you doing?" Yin Xiaoxiao exclaimed, but Lin Yu had already jumped in. Lin Yu threw his clothes on the ground and smiled. "I'm taking a bath, of course. It's very comfortable. Do you want to join me?" Yin Xiaoxiao had already turned her face away. "Stupid Lin Yu, General Mo Lien will open the Shura gate at any moment. Hurry up and put on your clothes." Lin Yu ignored her. He smiled casually and closed his eyes in the demon refining blood pool. Yin Xiaoxiao was about to speak when she saw a terrifying blood energy erupt from Lin Yu's body. The blood chi soared into the sky and formed a blood chi clone. It was the same as Lin Yu's avatar. It really is an avatar at the Grand Realm. Yin Xiaoxiao stared at the avatar solemnly. When she fought Lin Yu, she already felt that Lin Yu's body was extremely powerful. The avatar sat cross-legged as well. In the next moment, the calm surface of the demon refining blood pool began to surge. "Are you cultivating?" Yin Xiaoxiao suddenly remembered that Lin Yu had come here on purpose. So this is his goal. When I start cultivating, I will be very weak. At that time, Lin Fan said. Lin Yu's eyes were closed, but his voice suddenly rang out. "You can find a chance to kill me. The chances of success are higher." While Yin Xiaoxiao was still in a daze, Lin Yu had already immersed himself in cultivation. The blood pool began to boil. Pillars of blood soared into the sky and drenched Lin Yu's avatar. However, Yin Xiaoxiao wasn't in the mood to be shocked by Lin Yu's magnificent cultivation. She was in a dilemma. Lin Yu, this fellow, not only swaggered in front of her to cultivate, he also reminded her that it was the best chance to kill him. Yin Xiaoxiao's eyes were red. She clenched her fists tightly in her water sleeves. Her fingernails dug into her palms until they were red, but Yin Xiaoxiao didn't notice it at all. "He killed my father." Yin Xiaoxiao gritted her teeth. A purple sun appeared, and a violent aura condensed into a scorching purple sun. Yin Xiaoxiao raised her right hand and held the purple sun. The blood pool boiled even more fiercely. Yin Xiaoxiao stood next to the blood pool. Her purple sun could fall at any time. At such a close distance, even if you're a Grand Realm warrior, you'll still die if you're caught off guard. Yin Xiaoxiao said slowly. Lin Yu didn't respond to her. Instead, it seemed that she was talking to herself. "Bastard, you'll really die." Yin Xiaoxiao recalled the battle between the demon cult of Bliss and the Xin sect. Lin Yu had personally killed her father, Yin Daosheng. Her whole body trembled, and tears welled up in her eyes. Now, her father's murderer was right in front of her. However, Yin Xiaoxiao couldn't do it. In the next moment, Lin Yu's expression suddenly changed. The violent power in the blood pool kept seeping into his bones. His bones kept shattering and regenerating. A drop of golden blood suddenly appeared in front of him. It was the golden blood that Great Sovereign Shumi had given him back then. Even though Great Sovereign Shumi only had the strength of a Grand Realm warrior now. But only Lin Yu knew that in his heyday, he was once a hero during the Imperial era. His golden blood was a supreme treasure. As soon as the golden blood appeared, it immediately attracted the blood pool. Mutated blood. Yin Xiaoxiao's gaze fell on Lin Yu's changes. He's about to break through. It was really as Lin Yu had said. He was at his weakest moment now. Above the purple sun, the blood moon circled. Yin Xiaoxiao's wrist trembled, but she still didn't make a killing move. However, she began to see the demon refinement blood pool rapidly drying up. The golden blood transformed and merged into Lin Yu's body avatar's forehead. The aura of his physique had changed too. 100 Grand Dao paths. 200 Grand Dao paths. 300 Grand Dao paths. Chapter 377. Yin Xiaoxiao was quite a distance away from Lin Yu. However, she still felt that her qi and blood were being suppressed by Lin Yu's breakthrough aura. The power of his qi and blood was still increasing. 350, 400, 450. Dense Grand Supreme qi and blood surrounded Lin Yu. Lin Yu's aura gradually stopped when the number of Grand Supreme qi and blood reached 500. At this moment, his combat body avatar was twice as tall as before. Lin Yu stepped into the air and landed in front of Yin Xiaoxiao. The latter was shocked when she saw Lin Yu's body. When she retreated, the purple sun and blood moon in her hand fell. Danger! Yin Xiaoxiao's pupils dilated. When she shouted for Lin Yu to retreat, she saw Lin Yu just wave his hand casually. There was a loud boom. The purple sun and blood moon flew out and hit the starry sky. There was a sound and the laws shattered. Lin Yu stared at Yin Xiaoxiao indifferently. There's no chance to kill me. She felt the terrifying qi and blood power on Lin Yu's body. That was the aura of the peak of the 500 Grand Supreme Paths. Can you put on your clothes first? Yin Xiaoxiao closed her eyes tightly. Lin Yu nodded. Half a cup of tea later. All right. Yin Xiaoxiao slowly opened her eyes, but the image of Lin Yu was still in her mind. Yin Xiaoxiao immediately shook her head and changed the topic. Are you planning to enter the laws with your combat body? In the starry sky, people who entered the laws with their combat body were rare. However, all of them were top-notch experts. For example, Tong Di, one of the 8 emperors, had entered the laws with his combat body and injured Empress Sither. Just the combat body is not enough. Lin Yu smiled. What he wanted was for his cultivation, combat body, and divine will to enter the laws together. At that time, he would be invincible in the law realm. All right, it's time to go out. Lin Yu looked around, trying to determine the direction. Yin Xiaoxiao shook her head and said, Unless Great General reopens the Shura Gate, we won't be able to leave. Lin Yu looked at the sky, and Yin Xiaoxiao followed his gaze. There was a huge bronze door floating in the air. The bronze door was tightly shut. Other than the Great General, no other power could open it. It is indeed difficult. Lin Yu rubbed his chin and exerted force in his palm. Immediately, a complicated pattern appeared on his palm. It was a pattern formed by hundreds of intertwining golden and blood-red threads. It was like an ancient mark. Lin Yu remembered being trapped for 100,000 years. When he came in, he couldn't get out no matter what. Instead, he could only wait for time to pass. At dawn, he could reset and leave. But now that he was free, he naturally couldn't use this cowardly method. Try this. Lin Yu leaped into the air and arrived above the Azura Gate. Yin Xiaoxiao was aware of the backlash on the Azura Gate. Just as she wanted to stop Lin Yu had already pressed his hand on the bronze door. It can't be opened from the inside. Yin Xiaoxiao tried to persuade him, but in the next moment, a reddish-gold light surged into the bronze door from Lin Yu's palm. Not only did the bronze door not attack Lin Yu, but it also made cracking sounds. Yin Xiaoxiao was dumbfounded. The Azura Gate had been opened from the inside by Lin Yu. Impossible. This is impossible. Yin Xiaoxiao shook her head in disbelief. This was used to imprison prisoners on death row. For many years, the prisoners on death row had died here. If the Azura Gate could be opened from the inside, why would they wait for death here? Are you going or not? Inside the Azura Gate, a vortex surged, and Lin Yu extended his hand to her. Yin Xiaoxiao was shocked, and her gaze fell on the rune in Lin Yu's palm. That's the mark of the Azura blood god. She did not have the bloodline of the Azura Emperor Gate in her, but she had seen this mark in the ancient books of the Emperor Gate. It was the legendary trump card of the great Emperor Shura who dominated the universe in ancient times. Yin Xiaoxiao leaped into the air, grabbed Lin Yu, and looked at him carefully. Did you get this from the demon refining blood pool? Looking at it from a close distance, Yin Xiaoxiao felt that the Azura Emperor Gate's cultivation method in her body was suppressed by the mark. But this was not Lin Yu's intention. If Lin Yu had activated the mark of the Azura blood god, her cultivation method would have been nullified. Yes. Lin Yu nodded. Otherwise, why would I come here? Yin Xiaoxiao looked at him in shock. I thought it was a great fortune for you to break through your combat constitution. But now she knew. Compared to breaking through his combat constitution, this mark was the real fortune. Do you know what this mark can do? Yin Xiaoxiao asked. Seeing her surprise, Lin Yu smiled and said, although it is not complete, it can make me the ruler of at least 30% of the Azura race's bloodline. You even know this? Yin Xiaoxiao had just finished speaking when Lin Yu's eyes widened with emotion. During the Nine Emperors' struggle, this universe was much more glorious than it is now. He looked down at the mark in his hand. Unfortunately, the Nine Emperors fell, and the universe fell. This Azura blood god mark is now in a broken state. Yin Xiaoxiao seemed to see the grand occasion of the era of emperors, when all the geniuses had appeared. She looked at Lin Yu in a daze. He continued, if I want it to be complete, I need to go to the Azura Emperor Gate. After that, you can go back to the Azura Emperor Gate first. I'll come find you later, Lin Yu said, but his words touched Yin Xiaoxiao's heart. I don't need you to come find me. Yin Xiaoxiao looked away and shook off the hand that had grabbed Lin Yu's mark. Then I won't go. Lin Yu shrugged non-committally. Yin Xiaoxiao gritted her teeth. You'd better think about your sect first. My Azura Emperor Gate's 100,000-strong army has already begun to attack. Before she could finish, she was interrupted by Lin Yu's laughter. If the Azura Emperor Gate comes out in full force, they might be able to destroy my low-key sect. But if it's just Mo Liantu bringing some trash, I'm afraid they won't even be able to enter my low-key sect's mountain gate. Looking at the arrogant youth in front of her, Yin Xiaoxiao was furious. I've never seen someone as arrogant as you. From the inner region to the Emperor Gate, you can still be so confident? Yin Xiaoxiao felt that no matter if it was her floating life demon sect, it was still the current Azura Emperor Gate. In front of Lin Yu, there seemed to be a sense of petty squabbling. Do you have other trump cards? Yin Xiaoxiao asked. All right, let's go. Too lazy to say more. Lin Yu directly held Yin Xiaoxiao's slightly cold hand. Yin Xiaoxiao struggled for a moment, but she still cooperated with Lin Yu's actions. The two of them entered the Azura sect. When they reappeared, they were already above the low-key sect's mountain gate. Just when Yin Xiaoxiao thought that this place had become a purgatory on Earth. However, what she saw was something that she couldn't believe. Why is it like this? Below, the low-key sect was intact as before. One by one, the people of the low-key sect were busy capturing the unconscious Azura army. Chapter 378. Yin Xiaoxiao sucked in a breath of cold air. How long had it been since they entered? How could a 90,000-strong army be captured by the low-key sect? Seems like that little thing has made its move. Lin Yu's spirit sense casually scanned one of the Shura army. Naturally, he sensed the familiar energy of the nine-colored egg. He looked in the direction of the heavenly lake. The barrier that by Shuechen and Mo Yinta couldn't break opened automatically the moment Lin Yu's spirit sense arrived. Lin Yu checked on the 9-colored eggs condition and found that he was still in a deep sleep. Seems like he could be stronger. He shrugged. The people of the low-key sect also saw Lin Yu appear. Greetings, sect master. The left and right envoys, the 12 elders, and tens of thousands of people of the low-key sect. They all knelt down in the air. However, when they saw Yin Xiaoxiao beside Lin Yu, they couldn't help but be filled with fighting spirit. Shura princess. Yin Xiaoxiao squinted her eyes as if she was relieved. Since I've lost, Lin Yu, kill me, she said to Lin Yu beside her. Suddenly, she realized that her hand was still held by him. However, just as Yin Xiaoxiao's heart warmed, Lin Yu let go of her hand. You can go, Lin Yu said slowly. His tone was cold. However, when Yin Xiaoxiao heard it, she had mixed feelings. You're letting me go? Yin Xiaoxiao shook her head self-deprecatingly. But if you let me go, aren't you afraid that you won't be able to convince the masses? I'm not afraid, Lin Yu said calmly. He touched his chin and said, however, your Shura army can forget about leaving. You're only letting me go? Yes. Also, pass a message to your husband for me. Lin Yu didn't look at Yin Xiaoxiao. His back was facing her. What message? Yin Xiaoxiao's husband was naturally the current Shura sect emperor. However, when the words husband and son came out of Lin Yu's mouth, Yin Xiaoxiao's eyes flashed with a trace of confusion. Tell him that I've already cut off the hand that reached out to the low-key sect. If he continues, don't blame me for uprooting the Azura Emperor sect. With that, Lin Yu waved his hand and a teleportation array appeared beside Yin Xiaoxiao. This again, Yin Xiaoxiao looked at the young man who was kneeling in front of tens of thousands of people, warning an emperor's gate. Suddenly, she felt a little fascinated. Yin Xiaoxiao's final words were heard when her figure began to disappear into the teleportation array. I didn't marry him, nor did I let him touch me. Yin Xiaoxiao left. Lin Yu never looked back. Everyone from low-profile sect saw this scene with their own eyes. However, how could they dare to oppose Lin Yu's decision? Sect Master, how should we deal with the Azura army? Seeing Lin Yu descend to the mountain gate, Qin Wenyan stepped forward and bowed respectfully. Right emissary Qin's cultivation seems to be about to step into the nomological realm. Lin Yu sized up Qin Wenyan. The latter's cultivation advancement was clearly visible to him. I'm still one step away. Wenyan will work hard. Qin Wenyan nodded and replied. He knew that Yang Kai had actually stepped into the nomological realm when he returned this time. While he was happy for Yang Kai, Qin Wenyan couldn't help but feel some pressure in his heart. After all, they had the same position. Naturally, the difference in combat strength couldn't be too great. After a while, I'll take you to the Emperor's Gate. Wenyan, you might have a greater opportunity in the Emperor's Gate. If this sentence came from someone else, they might think that he was crazy. However, now that it came from Lin Yu's mouth, everyone from low-profile sect couldn't help but be shocked. Go to the Emperor's Gate Starfield? Can we? These people from low-profile sect had just faced the invasion of the Emperor's Gate army. At this moment, when they had just recovered from their shock, Lin Yu actually told them that he was going to lead the entire sect to the Emperor's Gate Starfield. How could they recover from their shock so easily? There's no hurry. Lin Yu waved his hand. When the others saw this, they couldn't even ask a few more questions. However, Qin Wenyan still cupped his fists and asked, Sect Master, how should we deal with the Azura army? Lin Yu smiled gently. His smile was extremely calm. Low-profile sect cannot be humiliated. This sentence spread in all directions. Lin Yu had already returned to the sect master's hall. However, Qin Wenyan and the others had known Lin Yu for so long. So how could they not know what he meant? Pass down the order, leave no one alive. Qin Wenyan muttered as he looked in the direction Lin Yu left, bowed, and cupped his fists. Low-profile sect cannot be humiliated. Immediately after, a deafening sound rang out. When Lin Yu heard this, he couldn't help but feel a little hot-blooded. In the next few hours, everyone from low-profile sect used the blood of their enemies to once again build up a firm heart to protect their sect. However, Lin Yu was in the sect master's hall and didn't care about this. Instead, he summoned Qin Yi. I was so afraid that something would happen to you in the Emperor's Gate star field. Qin Yi was panting, snuggling in Lin Yu's strong arms. Her stunning face was full of joy. I will be careful, feeling the words of concern from the beauty writhing in front of him. Lin Yu comforted her. I thought you were going to deal with the bad guy who covered this starry sky and would take a long time to come back. Qin Yi's pretty face was flushed. I haven't met him yet. Of course, maybe he's everywhere and no one knows where he is. Lin Yu said truthfully. This sentence made Qin Yi feel a chill down her spine. I really want to help you. She knew that Lin Yu wouldn't stop. The only thing Qin Yi could do was to work hard. I can feel the change in you. Lin Yu looked at Qin Yi with a deep gaze. You can cultivate now? I can't hide anything from you. Qin Yi pressed down and nodded with difficulty. But my cultivation is still only in the transcendent realm. It's just that the spiritual sense is more powerful. Lin Yu spoke before she could. You awakened the extreme spiritual sense that you were born with. It surprised me. The extreme spiritual sense was a variant of the cultivator's spiritual sense. It was similar to the combat cultivator's mutated blood battle physique. Once the extreme spiritual sense was awakened, it could unleash terrifying combat strength. Its might wasn't inferior to the mutated blood battle physique. In the past, Qin Yi was only the 7 Yi Demon Emperor's supreme vessel. Lin Yu didn't expect her talent to be so strong. Qin Yi explained the process, and Lin Yu also explained the uniqueness of the extreme spiritual sense to her. Do you want to know what kind of extreme spiritual sense I awakened? Qin Yi understood her change and leaned her head on Lin Yu's shoulder. She said softly, no one in the sect knows yet. Lin Yu knew that she was a woman who knew how to protect herself. He tapped her Huiyang acupoint with his right hand. Are you still keeping me in suspense? Qin Yi's beautiful face blushed even more. After you explained it to me, I finally understood my strength. Qin Yi slowly closed her eyes, and a ray of sacred light emitted from her forehead. Lin Yu immediately felt as if his divine sense was being drawn and merged with the other parties. This feeling was even more comfortable than what the two of them were doing. In an instant, Lin Yu closed his eyes. Qin Yi looked at him gently. I can finally help you. Chapter 379. 10 hours later, Lin Yu opened his eyes. The moment Lin Yu opened his eyes, his divine thoughts spread out in all directions. 100 feet, 300 feet, 500 feet. He saw Qin Ji changing her clothes. He saw sword fanatics sweating after practicing the heavenly derivation sword technique. He also saw Dongwang Feiyu, Yao Rao, and Qi Yao in the hot spring of the bedroom palace. He also saw Bai Xuechen and Qin Wunyan drinking and having fun. His Highness the Sixth Prince, who was pretending to be a man, was a little uncomfortable. Bai Xuechen narrowed her eyes slightly, as if she noticed that someone was looking at her. What's wrong, Brother Bai? Qin Wunyan asked. But at this moment, Lin Yu withdrew his divine thought. Nothing. Bai Xuechen shook his head, but he muttered in his heart, is it my illusion? Everything within a radius of 5,000 feet could not escape his divine will this time. After withdrawing his divine thought, Lin Yu felt energized. Congratulations, Sect Master. Qin Yi served Lin Yu obediently. Sect Master, how do you feel about breaking through the divine thought? Very good, and I saw a lot of good things. Lin Yu coughed and looked at Qin Yi. Do you know what your extreme divine thought is called? Rebirth in Paradise. Qin Yi said truthfully. From a moment she comprehended the extreme divine thought, she already knew the name of this divine thought. Yes, rebirth in paradise. Lin Yu suddenly felt a little emotional. A long time ago, in the era before the emperors, it was called the ancient god era. Qin Yi did not know why Lin Yu said this, but she still patiently lay in his arms and said, in the ancient god era, talents were born one after another. Their talent and combat power were even more terrifying than the 9 emperors. Hearing this, Qin could not help but look solemn, as if the ancient times, the world of talents fighting for hegemony, appeared in her mind. Many geniuses have appeared out of nowhere and reached the top of the immortal state. No one knows how cruel and brutal the battles are. Lin Yu lowered his head and said to the beauty in his arms, "One of the geniuses stepped into the great Tao with this rebirth in bliss." Qin Yi's heart tightened. She really wanted Lin Yu to continue. At that time, everyone thought that the rebirth in bliss was only used to nourish one's spirit and had no offensive power. But who would have thought that the ultimate Tao divine will could indeed nourish divine will? But the most terrifying aspect of ultimate Tao divine will is rebirth. That is the power of the death god. That prodigy used the divine will of rebirth and bliss to become an empress, but the process. Lin Yu noticed the slight change in Qin Yi's temperament and said, "Forget it. You'll know in the future." Seeing Lin Yu's hesitant look, Qin Yi's delicate mind couldn't help but worry. "Will I also walk the path of that empress in the future?" Qin Yi asked. "That's up to you." Lin Yu didn't force it. He knew that Qin Yi was destined to have her own path. Once the divine will of rebirth and bliss was developed to the extreme, her future achievements might not be inferior to his. But Lin Yu knew that her path wouldn't be easy. There were too many people who needed to die. Don't think about that first. Qin Yi saw that Lin Yu had a lot on his mind, so she took the initiative to comfort Lin Yu. 6 hours passed. After Qin Yi fell asleep, Lin Yu went to Heavenly Lake. Heavenly Lake was heavily guarded. Little Monkey and the 8-winged demon python were guarding it. But Lin Yu didn't like to be disturbed, so he sent them away. The 9-colored egg was still sleeping peacefully. Lin Yu touched the surface with his right hand and was shocked to feel the terrifying power inside. "It seems that there's not much time before you come out." Lin Yu smiled faintly. "You did well last time, but if it's only to this extent, you can't be my real bargaining chip." His voice fell. A slight vibration suddenly came from the 9-colored egg. That vibration seemed to be protesting, causing all the people of Loki's sect to be shocked. Only Lin Yu was not affected by this vibration at all. "Your temper is not small, but what I said is true." Lin Yu gently patted the 9-colored egg. "Before you come out, I will give you more power. Don't be in a hurry to come out. I will always wait for you." After saying that, Lin Yu turned around and prepared to leave. However, a gentle glow came from within the 9-colored egg. This light enveloped Lin Yu. A guiding force made the 3 elements in one training method in Lin Yu's body operate on its own. "You can actually balance the 3 elements in one of my body?" Lin Yu was pleasantly surprised. Whether it was Qin Yi or the 9-colored egg, Loki's sect had given him endless surprises this time. This was something that had never happened in the 100,000 years that he was trapped. Lin Yu sat down cross-legged. He allowed the soft 9-colored light to sprinkle down. Lin Yu entered a state of cultivation. But this state lasted for too long, and the heavenly lake was located high above Loki's sect. So Lin Yu's cultivation made the light stronger and stronger, directly spreading to the sky above Loki's sect. Many disciples were far away, but they could still be illuminated by the light. This is the Tao light of the sect master and the divine beast. "Sit down. Maybe it can help us break through." Lin Yu's cultivation immediately attracted the pilgrimage of tens of thousands of people. Even Bai Xuechen and the 6th prince could not help but look in the direction of the heavenly lake. The white fog there had already turned into a magnificent rainbow, crossing the green mountains and blue waters of Loki's sect. The 9-colored light was like the sun shining in all directions. Even Bai Xuechen and the 6th prince were sitting cross-legged in the air. The great Tao of a confidant is quite powerful. Bai Xuechen felt the supreme power in the light and was full of admiration. She entered a state of cultivation. The 6th prince, Han Wanqing, the left and right messengers, the 12th elder, and the others were the same. 3 days later, when Lin Yu opened his eyes, the 3 elements in one state seemed to have completed a transformation. His cultivation, divine will, and combat physique had all reached the state of 500 most exalted Tao. And it was a perfect state. Lin Yu left the heavenly lake, but the nine-colored light was still there. What was more interesting was that low-key sect had entered a frenzy of cultivation. Lin Yu stepped into the air and saw that all the disciples of his palace were cultivating. He took out the Heaven and Earth Nirvana staff, but unfortunately, low-key sect's territory was too big now and could no longer store it. The Heaven and Earth Nirvana staff could only be used to propel. Under Lin Yu's control, the huge floating continent in the starry sky began to move. The direction was the realm-crossing gate that led to the core. In order to not interrupt the cultivation of the people of low-key sect, Lin Yu did not choose to use the teleportation portal. Besides, the teleportation portal could not teleport such a huge continent in one go. On the way to the realm crossing gate, time gradually passed. On the second day, many people had already woken up. Meanwhile, Si Shaoxian had arrived at low-key sect again. She went straight to Lin Yu. Si Shaoxian seemed to be in a hurry. Her face was pale, and she no longer had the delicate appearance of a young girl. "Greetings, Patriarch Lin. Something bad has happened." Chapter 380. After the Shura army was defeated, Si Shaoxian returned to the Xian sect to clean up the mess. At the same time, after Qinji found out about the relationship between Lin Yu and Si Shaoxian, she also arranged for some disciples of the low-profile sect to follow her back. After all, the Xian sect and Xian Heaven sect were already dead, and Si Shaoxian was the only one left. "You've lost a lot of weight." Lin Yu sat on the sect master's dragon throne and slowly stood up and walked down. When he arrived in front of Si Shaoxian, the skinny beauty must have had a hard time recently. When Si Shaoxian and Lin Yu's eyes met, Si Shaoxian's strong look collapsed instantly. She fell into Lin Yu's arms and sobbed. Fortunately, most people were still cultivating, and the rest did not dare to disturb the sect master's hall. Otherwise, they might think that Lin Yu had done something overboard to Si Shaoxian. "I'm sorry, I almost implicated you," Si Shaoxian said with a choked voice, referring to the Shura army that destroyed the Xian sect and came to the low-profile sect. "If it wasn't for me, maybe they wouldn't have come." Si Shaoxian's body trembled, and she was still afraid. "Stop shaking, or you'll come out," Lin Yu reminded her, and Si Shaoxian immediately blushed and took 2 steps back. "You're so fast?" Hearing this, Lin Yu's face darkened. "What are you thinking about? I said your tears are coming out again." Si Shaoxian was ashamed and ashamed. Just now, she was on the verge of collapsing, but now she didn't know where Lin Yu had gone. Since the Shura Emperor sect has dealt with the Xian sect, they will definitely swallow my low-profile sect. You were able to warn Qin Wenyan earlier, so my low-profile sect owes you a favor. Lin Yu's words made Si Shaoxian heave a sigh of relief, but her eyes were still dim. The elders were stubborn. They shouldn't have killed the innocent people of the Floating Life Demon sect. Si Shaoxian shook her head as if she was remorseful. "It's our fault." Lin Yu shrugged. He did not really care, and only said, "I remember reminding the Black Heaven sect back then. Father listened to you." Si Shaoxian hurriedly explained, "But my father knew that he didn't have much time left, so he decided to impart his power to me. During the few days of his closed-door cultivation, he gave the decision to the elders. We originally only wanted to snatch the resources from the Bliss Life Demon sect's main altar, but we didn't expect that the disciples and elders would actually—" Lin Yu patted Si Shaoxian's shoulder and said, "It's all in the past. Don't mention it again." Only then did Si Shaoxian come to her senses. "By the way, when I returned to the Xian sect this time, I found out that something was wrong." "What?" Lin Yu asked her to continue. "The corpses of those who died in the celestial sect of wonders are all gone." Si Shaoxian said solemnly, "There are hundreds of thousands of disciples and ordinary people who have no combat power. But when I wanted to go back and bury them this time, not a single corpse could be found." After describing to Lin Yu the strange scene she saw when she returned to the celestial sect, Si Shaoxian said, "I remember that when Big Brother was in power, the celestial sect of wonders collected many corpses, but in the end, no one knew where they went. Si Shaoxian recalled that when Si Junlin was the acting sect master, this situation also happened. But at that time, the corpses of the celestial sect of wonders were gone, and there were not many of them. But this time, Si Junlin was not there, and the people of the celestial sect of wonders had just died. How could they all disappear in the blink of an eye? Interesting. Lin Yu touched his chin. He guessed something, but he did not have enough evidence. A few more hours passed. More and more people from the low-profile sect stopped cultivating. When everyone saw the entire continent moving toward the realm crossing gate, they could not help but feel their blood boil. They were extremely excited. The core area. I never thought that I would one day be able to set foot in the most powerful place in the universe. We also have to cultivate diligently. Don't let down sect master's efforts. Yes, the price sect master paid to move the celestial sect to the Emperor Gate Starfield is definitely not something we can imagine. At this moment, the low-profile sect passed by the location of the demon floating life sect. Yang Kai and Qin Wunyan were sent out by Lin Yu to investigate the situation of the demon floating life sect. After returning, they also gathered in the sect master's hall with solemn expressions. Sect master, the situation is the same as what young Lady C said. The corpses of the demon floating life sect have all disappeared. Yang Kai cupped his fists and said to Lin Yu, "We can't find any traces. It's as if these corpses disappeared into thin air." Qin Wunyan said. Si Shaoxian nodded to Lin Yu. The situation is the same as our celestial sect of wonders. What's even stranger is that all the resources of the celestial sect of wonders are still there. It seems that the person who took away the corpses was not interested in those resources. His goal was only the millions of corpses of the two sections. Hearing this, Qin Wunyan and Yang Kai thought of the same person at the same time. Celestial Emperor Xiao. Back in the southern border star field, the southern wilderness and the gravedigger race once collected the corpses for Celestial Emperor Xiao. The two said one after another. Yang Kai continued, Celestial Emperor Xiao is now an Emperor Master. If he took the corpses, he could do it without anyone knowing. Agreed. Qin Wunyan nodded and looked at Si Shaoxian, asking, when Si Jun came to the Celestial Sect of Wonders, he seemed to have colluded with Celestial Emperor Xiao. Si Shaoxian recalled, at that time, Big Brother did say that he met someone who looked exactly like Sect Master Lin, but that person had white hair. The three looked at each other and seemed to have reached a consensus. However, Lin Yu, who was sitting in the seat of honor, did not say anything. Instead, he looked down at Si Shaoxian. You're saying that all the resources of the Celestial Sect of Wonders are still there, but the corpses were taken away? Yes. Si Shaoxian cupped her fists and said, but after the Azura army massacred the city, they were worried that I would report to them, so they went straight to Low-Key Sect and did not have time to take away the resources. Qin Wunyan immediately said, Sect Master, we did not find anything from the Celestial Sect of Wonders on the 49,000 Azura soldiers. So, I have just ordered someone to bring the things to Low-Key Sect. Si Shaoxian cupped her fist to Lin Yu and said in a heavy voice, my Celestial Sect of Wonders no longer exists, so I have no use for these resources. Lin Yu was not in the mood to be happy that Low-Key Sect had obtained so many resources. He was more curious about the disappearance of the corpses. Sect Master, did Celestial Emperor Xiao have some other purpose? Otherwise, why would he continue to collect the corpses? Yang Kai was puzzled. In addition to him, Qin Wunyan and Si Shaoxian in the hall also looked at Lin Yu at the same time. Do you all think Celestial Emperor Xiao did it? The three nodded. Lin Yu touched his chin. If you all think so, then the intelligence of the 7 great Emperor sects is no less than that of my Low-Key sect. They will definitely think that Celestial Emperor Xiao did it. He smiled meaningfully, but I think that the more obvious the truth is, the more likely it is to be false. Chapter 381. The three of them were surprised when they heard Lin Yu's words. Does Sect Master think that Heavenly Emperor Xiao Tian did not do this? Qin Wunyan asked. Lin Yu calculated the time and said, It's hard to say now. Let's go to the core star field first and see what's going on. All the secrets of this starry sky were in the core star field. Outside the hall, Qin and the others came to report. They had arrived at the realm crossing gate. The time is just right. Lin Yu stood up and stepped out. The clouds in front of him tumbled. It was the symbolic passage to the core, the realm crossing gate. It carried the secret of the disappearance of the two great sect's corpses. Lin Yu stood in the sky outside Loki's sect at this moment. Raising his head to look at the tightly shut world crossing gate, the gigantic world guardian appeared once again. Bai Xuechen and the sixth prince stood beside Lin Yu at the same time. The two of them were about to flash their emperor tokens and enter the realm crossing gate. Suddenly, they noticed that the realm guardian's demeanor was a little different from before. The former realm guardian was dull and expressionless. But now, the realm guardian was looking down at the huge continent of Loki's sect with a murderous gaze. In particular, the target in his eyes was the leader of Loki's sect, Lin Yu. This thing seems a little strange today. Bai Xuechen took the lead and said, also noticing the realm guardian's strangeness. Not only her, but the sixth prince and Yang Kai had also been here before. They had also seen what the realm guardian looked like in the past. It does look a little strange now. The two nodded in agreement with Bai Xuechen. Lin Yu just said lightly, things are getting more and more interesting. When he looked up, the realm guardian's gaze also met Lin Yu's at the same time. Unfortunately, everyone knew that they had already flashed their emperor tokens and wanted to enter the realm crossing gate in the normal way. However, the realm guardian did not even ask the usual questions of passersby. He just waved the blade in his hand. His blade intent soared into the sky and directly locked onto the huge Loki sect. What's the meaning of this? He can't see the emperor token at all, and he didn't ask. Is he crazy? The sixth prince and Kai Yang asked in surprise. Bai Xuechen took a step forward, his voice resounding in all directions. This king is the first highness of the Zither Emperor's Gate. Why can't I open the world crossing gate? The blade slashed down as if it could split the heavens and shatter the earth. The realm guardian did not seem to be able to hear anyone. In an instant, the entire cloud layer seemed to have been sliced apart and scattered to the sides. In the sky above the Loki sect, Bai Xuechen and the sixth prince looked at each other and stepped out at the same time. The two of them unleashed their laws. Her Highness Sixth Prince's storm descended. The laws that engulfed her body turned into a huge gust of wind that directly met the huge blade that was about to fall. Bai Xuechen was the same. Her entire body was bathed in lightning. As he slowly stepped forward, a lightning dragon behind him charged towards the blade. The roar was deafening. The shockwaves from the battle outside the world crossing gate spread to the bottom of the low-profile sect. The disciples with slightly lower cultivation levels immediately felt immense pressure. They could not withstand the pressure and were forced to retreat. Only Lin Yu stroked his chin. He did not pay attention to where the law and the blade had clashed. Instead, he looked into the eyes of the realm guardian. Those eyes were no longer as clear as before. Instead, they flickered with a scarlet light. Looks like he's no longer the original realm guardian. Lin Yu recalled the disappearance of the demon cult of Bliss and the mystic sect's corpses. At this moment, he realized that something was wrong with this starry sky. In the sky, although the realm guardian was huge, his combat strength had reached the peak of the second level of the laws. However, he was facing Bai Xuechen and the sixth prince. The lightning law and the storm law were mixed together and constantly bombarded the realm guardian. The blade that was originally attacking everyone could only defend at this moment. The realm guardian kept retreating. Huge footprints were imprinted on the land of the world crossing gate along with fresh blood. You've guarded the world crossing gate for many years. You've contributed greatly to the imperial gate. Bai Xuechen warned, on account of your contributions, I won't harm your life. However, I hope that you'll stop before going too far. His voice spread. However, the realm guardian was unmoved. Even though he was injured, he still brandished his blade and continued to attack. The blade's transformation became even more intense. The blade intent descended and slashed towards the two of them. Big brother, it seems that reasoning won't work now. The sixth prince's clothes were blown up by the blade intent. He had a helpless look on his face. As a member of the Imperial Gate, he didn't really want to hurt the Realm Guardian. However, the current situation didn't seem to be up to them. The Realm Guardian seemed to have lost control and crazily attacked them. The two of them dodged this attack. However, in the next moment, the Realm Guardian's blade changed direction and suddenly attacked Lin Yu. The sky-covering blade emitted a thunderous sound. At this moment, it broke through the clouds and descended. The tens of thousands of low-profile sect disciples were shocked. If low-profile sect was directly hit, the entire continent might have split open. Lin Yu naturally couldn't sit back and do nothing. Since it doesn't make sense, I can only do this. Words of law. He took a step forward and raised his right hand. The aura of death behind him spread rapidly. It was the Grim Reaper passing through and breaking out from an alternate space. The moment the Yaksha's second move was used, the huge black sickle and the blade collided. This was the second time Lin Yu fought with the Realm Guardian. At this moment, Lin Yu's combat strength was many times stronger than before. As the move landed, the Realm Guardian's blade started to tremble nonstop. He took another step back, but the Realm Guardian's eyes still didn't have any intention of stopping the fight. Won't stop until one of us dies. A sharp light flashed in Lin Yu's deep eyes. A golden light appeared in his hand. The zenith golden body erupted, and he charged directly at the Realm Guardian. Seeing this, the sixth prince and Bai Xuechen also cooperated with Lin Yu to meet the Realm Guardian. The three strongest combatants immediately clashed with the Realm Guardian. Seeing this, Yang Kai, who had already stepped into the principal realm, also held his sword horizontally. His sword Tao principles erupted without reservation. In an instant, the four great experts used their full strength. How could the Realm Guardian last long? In less than half a cup of tea's time, he knelt down covered in blood. However, he still had no intention of stopping the fight. It seems that this thing is being controlled by someone, Bai Xuechen said helplessly. But in the middle of a battle, how could they have the chance to slowly understand what had happened to the Realm Guardian? Most of his divine sense is dead. The remaining divine sense is all instincts for battle. Lin Yu said with his hands behind his back, "Big brother, if we kill this thing, will it affect our star field?" The sixth prince said, "Right now, the best-case scenario was to kill the World Guardian right here and now." Bai Xuechen shook her head. Even she didn't know what the effect would be. The Realm Guardian had existed in this starry sky for a long time, even longer than she was born. Moreover, no one wanted to kill this Realm Guardian. It was like the guardian of the Emperor Gate star field. But now this guardian deity was constantly attacking them. Chapter 382. Not only them, but even the current low-key sect could leave or escape. But in the future, no one would be able to enter the Emperor Gate star field. What even surprised Bai Xuechen was, will the Realm Guardian also attack those who leave the core star field? If that's the case, doesn't that mean that it wants to imprison everyone in the core star field in this star field cage? Thinking of this, Bai Xuechen could only shake her head helplessly. But if we can only kill the Realm Guardian, will it have other effects on the starry sky? His Highness Sixth Prince was still worried. While the few of them were talking, the Realm Guardian's berserk state was even stronger than before. Its huge blade continued to sweep, causing the main body of the world-crossing gate to be hit by the saber intent. Seeing that there was no other choice, Lin Yu also ordered, "Kill it." After listening, the four of them came to a consensus and directly killed it. Not long after, the Realm Guardian died directly outside the world-crossing gate. This thing that had existed for who knew how many years completely fell to the ground, lifeless. The others from Low-Key Sect also breathed a sigh of relief. Looking at the terrifying fallen giant, whose combat strength had reached the second heavenly layer, coupled with its huge body and blade. If it was really allowed to wantonly destroy, not only the entire Low-Key Sect, but even the core and the outer star field would be affected by it. At that time, The number of people who would be implicated and die at its hands might be even more. Therefore, Bai Xuechen and His Highness Sixth Prince were not fools. Naturally, they understood that Lin Yu had given the order after careful consideration. After the Realm Guardian fell, when they were about to open the World Crossing Gate, they found that the principles of the entire starry sky began to shake. What's going on? Something's wrong. The principles of the starry sky are surging over. The principles were densely packed, and any one of them was more powerful than the principles of one's realm. Lin Yu also noticed the changes in the starry sky and touched his chin. It seems that someone is doing this deliberately. They want to use our saber to cut off the Realm Guardian's last breath. Yang Kai also noticed the changes in the starry sky and immediately asked Lin Yu, Sect Master, could this be related to the disappearance of the corpse? Lin Yu was not sure, but he still felt that it might be related. Nodding, Yang Kai felt even more puzzled. If this person can silently take away the corpse and even control the Realm Guardian, why didn't he kill the Realm Guardian himself instead of having us do it ourselves? Thinking of this, Yang Kai was even more puzzled. Bai Xuechen and the Sixth Highness looked down at the dead Realm Guardian at the same time. In reality, it wasn't them who killed the Realm Guardian. It was just that the Realm Guardian's spiritual will was almost completely destroyed. All that was left was a little bit of combat instinct, and this combat instinct was precisely aimed at the low-profile clansmen who wanted to pass through the portal to reach the core star field. Is there a difference between being completely dead and keeping a tiny bit of telepathic thoughts for the mastermind? To be able to do such a thing, it might be an Emperor-level character. Yang Sect, Yang Yang Sky, but Yang to Yang Sky. The turbulence in the starry sky was getting more and more serious. Lin Yu knew that now was not the time to be arrogant. After giving a signal, the four of them each punched the portal. Without the Realm Guardian, the Realm Gate was like a huge, ancient wooden door that was instantly opened by the four of them. Let's go, Lin Yu ordered. The huge Sect continent passed through the Realm Gate. The first prince and sixth prince followed at the same time. After reaching the core star field, the turbulence of starry sky principles did not disappear, but became even more intense. Everyone saw the laws of the entire starry sky converging, forming a vortex that surrounded the original location of the Realm Crossing Gate. Lin Yu felt that something was wrong and ordered them to speed up. When they were several thousand meters away from the Realm Gate, the Realm Gate that had been standing there for an unknown number of years was suddenly blown apart by the starry sky principles. Asterisk Hong Long Long. Asterisk the Realm Gate was torn apart. Is the underwear and the core star field unified? The Realm Gate that separated the inner territory and the core star field disappeared. Everyone was shocked. Lin Yu touched his chin, feeling very interested. Even though he had been trapped for 100,000 years, he did not expect that today's strange things would happen one after another. In the end, even the entire inner territory and the core star field were united. The situation here isn't right either. Bai Xuechen immediately reminded him. Lin Yu also nodded in agreement. If we continue to stay here, the other Emperor's Gate's people might think that we destroyed this Realm Gate. He spread out his hands and cursed the person who caused this. I don't want to take the blame for this. Finished, Lin Yu brought the low-key Sect's continent and sped up towards the Zither Emperor's Gate. Along the way, Lin Yu pondered for a while. This Realm Gate is obviously targeted at me. He still remembered that when the Realm Guardian went crazy, the killing intent in his eyes was directed at him. After pondering for a while, Lin Yu said, Qin Wunyan, Lu Wuhan, and Long Lin, listen up. The three of them immediately cupped their fists and walked over to Lin Yu. Lin Yu said a few words to them, and the three of them immediately understood and nodded in agreement. After that, everyone saw the three of them bring dozens of elites and board the low-key Sect's warship. And the warship was heading in the direction of the Divine, Emperor's Gate. Lin Yu beckoned to Yang Kai again. Yang Kai stepped forward and cupped his fists. Sect Master, please give your orders. After following Lin Yu for so long, Yang Kai also guessed that Lin Yu was about to start a counterattack. Their Sect Master was such a person. No matter how strange things were, As long as he started to plan, Yang Kai believed that Lin Yu would be the biggest winner in the end. Go back to the Sword Emperor Gate first, but don't expose your identity. Lin Yu touched his chin. I remember that the Sword Emperor Gate's Sword Dao Conference is held once every 10 years. It should be starting soon. Yang Kai nodded. Yes, I didn't expect Sect Master to know about this. Lin Yu was too lazy to explain that he had been trapped for 100,000 years, so he naturally knew when a large-scale Emperor Gate event like the Sword Dao Conference would be held. It was just that he had never really experienced the Sword Dao Conference before, because the day he was trapped was not the day the Sword Dao Conference was held. Go and inquire about some things for me first. When the time comes, I will meet you at the Sword Emperor Gate. Lin Yu said. Yang Kai nodded and took a dozen people with him, quietly boarded another warship, and left. Lin Yu gestured again for Qin Wunyan, Yi Wang, and Yi Mingyu to come forward. Qin Wunyan and the other two were not worried about this unfamiliar core star field. Instead, they were looking forward to the task Lin Yu was about to assign them. The three of them cupped their fists and said in unison, Sect Master, please give your orders. Chapter 383. Lin Yu stood with his hands behind his back and looked in the direction of the Ghost Gate. I have some conflicts with the Ghost Gate before, but I believe that the Ghost Gate will soon need our help. He calculated the time. In the 100,000 years that he had been trapped, he had calculated the time when Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva would meet the demon. It was a grand ceremony. It was about time for the ceremony to begin. You guys go to the Ghost Gate first and be spies there. Hearing this, the three of them looked at each other. What is a spy? Yi Mingyu asked. Lin Yu coughed dryly. It means a spy. The three of them immediately understood. After being instructed by Lin Yu to pay attention to a few things, they brought a few trusted aides and directly boarded the warship and left. After arranging all this, Bai Xuechen said to Lin Yu, It seems that not only is my confidant's combat strength extraordinary, but his Zither Dao is also impressive. Moreover, his methods of scheming against the world are many times better than mine. Lin Yu shrugged and smiled. I think you don't want to take on the throne and want to live a carefree life. That's why you don't want to care about the Zither Emperor's Gate. The two of them knew each other and admired each other. Otherwise, with your strategy, how could those little highnesses be able to keep you in check for so long? Bai Xuechen's handsome and flirtatious face smiled and did not refute Lin Yu. However, the sixth highness behind them looked at the two of them in surprise. She suddenly felt that her big brother might be even more powerful than she had imagined. The warship gradually headed towards the Zither Emperor's Gate. When they were far away from the World Crossing Gate, above the World Crossing Gate that had already disappeared, the nebula changed color. Suddenly, 7 divine consciousnesses descended. These 7 divine consciousnesses were all at the Emperor Master realm. However, when they descended, even their current statuses were incomparably different. The World Crossing Gate has disappeared, and the inner region and the core have merged. The starry sky has never undergone such a drastic change in thousands of years. Who did it? The 7 divine consciousnesses began to doubt each other. After all, only the Emperor Master realm could do such a thing. It could be seen that they were only at the level of suspicion, but did not have any evidence. Among the 7 divine consciousnesses, only Xiao Tian Di could sense a trace of Lin Yu's aura. It has something to do with him. In another direction, Lin Yu, the First Highness, and the others brought the continent of the Loki sect closer to the Zither Emperor's sect. However, when the Zither Emperor's Gate appeared in front of them, they discovered that the Zither Emperor's Gate seemed to have undergone a different change. 4 blood-red pillars of light had appeared there at some point in time. The 4 blood-light pillars came from the 2nd Imperial City, the 3rd Imperial City, the 4th Imperial City, and the 5th Imperial City, respectively. The 4 pillars were scattered on the 4 sides of the Zither Emperor's Gate. At this moment, they were constantly pulling and connecting with each other, forming a huge array formation that enveloped the entire Zither Emperor's Gate. Something has happened. Bai Xuechen immediately sensed that under the formation, many of the people from the Zither Emperor's sect had already fallen to the ground. His Highness the Sixth Prince looked at the blood-red light pillars in the 4 imperial cities with a grave expression. What are these 4 brothers trying to do? She stepped out into the air. When she wanted to enter the Zither Emperor's gate, she was blocked by the blood-colored array. Damn it, open it! His Highness the Sixth Prince was anxious because the 4 pillars of bloodlight only existed in the 4 imperial cities. Moreover, it could be seen with the naked eye that it was spreading to the other imperial cities. The storm law descended. His Highness the Sixth Prince raised his slender body and controlled the storm to blast towards the blood-colored array formation in front of him. Boom! The moment the storm law struck, there was only a loud explosion. However, in the next moment, the 300-foot storm was absorbed by the array formation at a speed visible to the naked eye. What? While His Highness the Sixth Prince was overwhelmed with shock, he once again felt a terrifying rebound force surging from the array formation. She was unable to dodge in time, and the rebound force was within 2 feet of His Highness the Sixth Prince. The corner of her clothes was instantly turned into ashes by the force. At the critical moment, the golden light and lightning swept down in front of His Highness the Sixth Prince at the same time. Boom! The array formation was repelled, and Lin Yu and Bai Xuechen stood in front of His Highness the Sixth Prince, who had just survived a calamity. At this moment, the largest pillar of bloodlight was located below, at the location of the 2nd imperial city. A man sitting on the dragon throne slowly opened his eyes. His gaze immediately locked onto Bai Xuechen and the other 2. Bai Xuechen, Xinyan, Lin Yu, you're finally back. I've been waiting for you for a long time. An inhuman voice rang out. The person who spoke was the 2nd prince, Feng Buxiu. At the same time, there was a figure standing beside him. It was the 3rd prince, Gu Qua, the 4th prince, Yin Jian, and the 5th prince, Kuei Lian. The moment the 4 of them discovered Lin Yu, they simultaneously erupted with an astonishing aura and locked onto them. The Emperor's aura is very weak. Bai Xuechen was the 1st prince, and his perception of the Emperor was naturally guided by his bloodline. It was even more sensitive than divine sense. I have a bad premonition. These 4 guys are going to usurp the throne. Hearing Bai Xuechen's words, His Highness the Sixth Prince's charming face turned solemn. He stared at the array that covered the entire Zither Emperor's gate. Big brother, how can we enter? Bai Xuechen had no choice. In any case, the rebound force of the array in an instant, if not for Lin Yu and him attacking together, he might not be able to block it easily by himself. Not to mention, he had to break through the array barrier and enter. Damn it. If we delay any longer, our clansmen will all die. Bai Xuechen's gaze fell on the disciples of the Zither Emperor's gate on the ground. These people seemed to have lost their fighting strength before they arrived. At this moment, they were all sitting cross-legged as if they had been fixed in place. Now, all of their expressions were solemn. The blood energy in their bodies was constantly being sucked away, turning into streaks of blood that flew towards the array supported by the 4 bloodlight pillars. As for the other mortals, they had already fallen to the ground. The speed at which their blood was being sucked away was even faster than the people who were meditating. You 4, open the door for me. Bai Xuechen suppressed the anger in his heart and tried to speak calmly. However, the 4 highnesses inside looked at them with ridicule. Big brother, I didn't expect you to be so useless one day. If you have the ability, then come in yourself. Why? Haven't you always looked down on us? In Big Brother's eyes, we have never been valued. That old thing has never thought highly of us. That old thing has bet all his future on Big Brother from the beginning. Unfortunately, he has misjudged him. The 4 highnesses mocked and ridiculed one after another, especially the 2nd prince. When the last sentence came out of his mouth, the 2nd prince, Feng Buxiu, stood up and slowly raised his hand. The blood-colored array in the sky suddenly surged, revealing an old body. Emperor! Xinyan's pupils dilated, and anger instantly drowned out her reason. In the blood-colored array, the body that seemed to be refined was their father, the Zither Emperor. Chapter 384. At this moment, the Zither Empress seemed to have lost consciousness. Her pale face was even paler than when her divine will was severely injured. No matter how Xinyan and Bai Xuechen called out to her, the Zither Empress still had her eyes closed. She could not hear anyone at all. Lin Yu rubbed his chin and observed the Zither Empress's condition. Her divine will was not dead yet, but it could not hold on for much longer. However, her body seemed to be restrained by the blood-red array formation. The biggest problem is her cultivation. Lin Yu was very interested. The Zither Empress's peak Law Realm cultivation had been sucked dry. He suddenly remembered that the Black Heaven sect had encountered the same situation back then. At that time, Si Junlin had told him that it was Emperor Xiao who had taught him the Great Absorption technique. But now, Feng Buxiu and the other three princes seemed to be relying on the blood-red array formation to restrain the Zither Empress and suck her power dry at the same time. Damn it, can't I get in? Xinyan had already revealed an anxious expression. Because she was a woman, her eyes were filled with tears and helplessness. That old thing deserves this. Bai Xuechen, didn't he say that your talent is far above the four of us? The third prince pointed at Bai Xuechen. Under the blood-red light pillar, his originally normal appearance was now abnormally ferocious. Come, Bai Xuechen. If you can't enter the Zither Empress's gate today, everyone here will die, including the old thing who loves you the most. The fifth prince, Kuei Lian, took a step forward and stepped into the air, arriving at the edge of the array formation. Bai Xuechen looked below. Kuei Lian finished speaking. Bai Xuechen and Xinyan saw that everyone in the first imperial city below was unable to move under the array formation, including the black and white envoys who had followed him since young. At this moment, even though the black and white envoys had the strength of the second firmament of the Law Realm, they still sat cross-legged with difficulty. The black envoy gritted his teeth and opened his eyes, looking in the direction where Bai Xuechen had returned. Your Highness, I'm fine. Leave quickly. He's right. He won't die in this hour. Look, after an hour, all that's left of him will be a pool of blood. Kuei Lian said again. Not only him, the fourth prince Yin Jian and the third prince Gu Meng also stepped into the air, directly confronting Bai Xuechen. The sovereign lord's most favored son, our strongest elder brother, can't even enter the imperial gate. Unfortunately, this prince still wants to have a good fight with Big Brother. Looks like there won't be a chance in this lifetime. Bai Xuechen gritted his teeth. His originally elegant face could no longer remain calm. Down below, clansmen fell one after another. There were also the black and white emissaries. They had grown up with him and were already his family. Your Highness, don't fall into his trap. A voice came from below, but the one who spoke was not black emissary, but white emissary who had never spoken. Even Bai Xuechen had never heard this chubby uncle speak a single word. He was always by her side silently. Whenever Bai Xuechen was in danger, Envoy Bai would be the first to appear. Bai Xuechen looked down in shock. So Uncle Bai can speak. The first thing he said was still to protect himself. Of course, Bai Xuechen knew that this was Kuei Lian's provocation. He wanted her to stay behind and watch the hundreds of thousands of people from the Zither Emperor's clan die in front of him. You talk too much. Killing intent flashed in Kuei Lian's eyes. He raised his hand, and a law came crashing down. How could the black and white emissaries block it now? The moment the law hit them, the two of them spat out a mouthful of blood. At the same time, when their injuries worsened, the bloodlight array seemed to have increased its absorption of blood qi. Their vitality instantly decreased. Stop! Bai Xuechen stepped on lightning and could no longer stay calm. He stared at Kuei Lian with a sharp gaze and punched out. Half of the sky was instantly illuminated by lightning. Bai Xuechen's cultivation erupted, but the three princes in front of him only smiled coldly, their faces full of mockery. There was a loud boom. Bai Xuechen suddenly felt a stronger rebound force than Xinyan's surging toward him. Lin Yu raised his right hand, and the Death God Pass came crashing down, directly dissolving the rebound force. But at this time, many people below spat out a mouthful of blood. The array is already connected to their blood chi. If we forcefully break the array, the people of the Zither Emperor's sect will also die. While Bai Xuechen and Xin Yan were still in shock, Lin Yu took the lead to explain. He then looked at the three princes and said, "The bloodthirsty, god-slaying array is not something that the three of you can form." When Lin Yu said the name of the array, the three princes were immediately stunned. "Lin Yu, when everyone here dies, this king will take your life." Yin Jian shouted at Lin Yu. He clearly remembered that when he wanted to besiege Lin Yu last time, he was frightened by Lin Yu and even knelt down. "Looks like your face is no longer swollen. You want to be beaten by me again." Lin Yu raised his eyebrows. "Old thing, you're finished. Your identity as a trusted aide is no longer useful to this king." Yin Jian was flustered and exasperated. "If you have the ability, come at me." But Lin Yu was too lazy to pay attention to him. He bypassed the three of them and landed on the second prince. "Looks like it was you who formed the array." The second prince, Feng Buxiu, who was sitting on the Emperor Dragon throne, smirked. His pupils were covered in bloodlight, and normal human pupils could not be seen. Feng Buxiu and Lin Yu looked at each other. "Looks like you found something." Lin Yu's lips curled up, and his eyes revealed excitement. Feng Buxiu's battle strength seemed to be connected to the bloodthirsty, god-slaying array. He was so powerful that it made people tremble. Lin Yu was even more interested. "So it's you. You finally appeared." Feng Buxiu also smiled. "A mayfly wants to shake the heavens? Seems like you found out about me and Lin Xiu." Lin Yu spread out his hands and was not afraid. He had already guessed the other party's identity. Feng Buxiu waved his hand, and his blood surged. "In this starry sky, nothing can hide from me. Is that so?" Lin Yu smirked. While Bai Xuechen and Xunyan's hearts were in turmoil, he pointed forward. As this finger landed, a vortex appeared in front of the three of them, and a teleportation force enveloped the three of them. Teleportation array. Kuei Lian, Yin Jian, and Gu Ao opened their eyes wide at the same time. "Confident, I can't leave." Bai Xuechen thought that Lin Yu was going to take her away. Xunyan also nodded. Only Si Shaoxian, who was behind them, remembered that when she and Lin Yu sneaked into the Xian sect to find Tang Xian, they were blocked by an array. She went in through the dog hole, and Lin Yu used the teleportation array to enter leisurely. "I'm going to bring you guys in," Lin Yu said slowly. "Low-key sect, stay here and wait for my orders." His words were law. The low-key sect's army that was ready to attack at any time responded in unison, their voices like thunder. After they came to the core starfield, they did not have time to admire the Zither Emperor's sect, which was dozens of times bigger than the low-key sect. "Go in." Xunyan's eyes widened, and before she could speak, Lin Yu grabbed her and Bai Xuechen's hands. Chapter 385. The three of them disappeared, and when they reappeared, they were already in front of Yin Jian and the other two. "You, how did you get in?" Yin Jian immediately took a few steps back. His fear of Lin Yu was bone deep. Earlier, with the obstruction of the bloodthirsty god slaying Grand Array, he only dared to speak arrogantly to Lin Yu. But how could he have imagined that Lin Yu would actually enter so easily? Confident this. Even Bai Xuechen was shocked by Lin Yu's sudden move. Now is not the time to talk about this. Lin Yu did not care about Yin Jian and the other two's shocked expressions. Instead, his gaze fell on Feng Buxiu. "I'll leave the three of them to you," Lin Yu said and moved. Before the three of them could react, he had already gone around them and approached Feng Buxiu. "Damn it, Lin Yu, you're looking down on me," Yin Jian shouted when he saw that Lin Yu did not treat him as an opponent. However, in the next moment, Yin Jian's hair stood on end. A slender hand pressed down on his shoulder. "Your opponent is me." Bai Xuechen's cold voice came from behind him. Above his head, the law of lightning shot out and locked onto Yin Jian, Gu Ao, and Kuei Lian. "I alone am enough here. You go out and help Lin Yu." Bai Xuechen said calmly to Xinyan. "Arrogant. Bai Xuechen, 1 against 3. Today, I'll make you pay for your arrogance." Gu Ao and Kuei Lian shouted angrily. While Xinyan was still hesitating, she saw a second law in by Xueqin's lightning. Second heaven. The second law in the sky caused the blood-red light of the bloodthirsty, god-slaying array to blast out a white light. Xinyan felt the killing intent in the white light. Bai Xueqin was going to put justice before family. Xinyan looked in Lin Yu's direction. Without hesitation, she quickly approached. However, in the next moment, dozens of auras blocked her path. Han clan, Zhao clan, Mu clan. Xinyan's eyes were serious. Not only the three families of the Fourth Imperial City, but also the officials of the Second and Third Imperial Cities who were originally in high positions. They were also attacking her. You are trying to kill my Zither Emperor sect. As the cold voice fell, a storm descended. On the other side, Lin Yu slowly descended from the air, landing 5 feet in front of Feng Buxiu. Looks like you're not afraid of me, Feng Buxiu said indifferently. Every word of his was filled with bone-chilling coldness. This wasn't something Feng Buxiu did on purpose. Instead, it was something that innately made people afraid. You were not afraid even after hiding for 10,000 years. So why should I be afraid? Lin Yu smirked. Aren't you afraid of angering the warden of this prison by using me to kill the prison guard? Hearing this, Feng Buxiu's blood-red eyes flashed with killing intent. You know too much. The bloodthirsty god, slaying Great Array, locked on Lin Yu as soon as he said this. Even Lin Yu felt a sense of life and death crisis. As long as Feng Buxiu willed it, he would most likely die here. It's not easy to cultivate to such a level at the Grand Supreme realm. Feng Buxiu took a step forward and said again, since you know that I used you to kill the prison guard, why don't you help me again and kill the warden? Lin Yu didn't say anything. Feng Buxiu saw through his cultivation and continued. When you kill the warden, you will be the sole ruler of this starry sky. He raised his hand and swept his gaze across the entire Zither Emperor sect. When mortals cultivate, what they pursue is immortality and invincibility. Now, this opportunity is in front of you. His voice was full of temptation, but Lin Yu didn't have the slightest interest in his expression. He only said, "Did he reject you?" Hearing this, Feng Buxiu's eyes flashed with an undetectable light. You are very smart. He is indeed the best candidate, but you're not bad either. Fun. Lin Yu couldn't help but laugh. Unfortunately, I don't like other techniques in my life and only care about my own Tao. I might have to reject your arrangement. Feng Buxiu stood with his hands behind his back. Other techniques? Observing people to know the details, controlling people to grasp the palm, following the books of the predecessors, and abandoning one's own thoughts. This is other techniques. Lin Yu said solemnly. Feng Buxiu shook his head and laughed disdainfully. It's just the words of a child. Controlling others and ruling the world. What's wrong with that? His gaze was equally determined, as if he was extremely firm in his Tao heart. Lin Yu naturally saw through it and said again, relying on one's own ability, promoting one's own glory, knowing one's own shortcomings, respecting one's own choices. This is the Tao of freedom. His temperament suddenly changed when he said this sentence. There was no longer the theoretical immaturity of a 15 or 16-year-old youth. Lin Yu's entire person was now as if the great Tao had been added to his body. His aura was so strong that it was comparable to Feng Buxiu's. Tao is above techniques. Techniques are supplementary, and Tao is the main. This is my path. After saying this, Lin Yu's gaze was as deep as thousands of stars. Feng Buxiu's expression turned ferocious. Between the two auras suddenly roared together. This was not any glory energy or cultivation. This was the impact of the Tao heart. Between the two began to collide. The roar resounded in all directions. The dozens of Grand Supreme Realm Guards beside the Dragon Throne wanted to attack Lin Yu, but they suddenly felt a sharp pain in their heads, as if they were about to explode. Then the Grand Supreme power in their bodies suddenly scattered chaotically. Before they could do anything, they all fainted. Very good. Feng Buxiu knew Lin Yu's position. Then died. On top of the bloodthirsty, god-slaying array, blood-colored long thorns suddenly appeared from the array. More and more blood thorns appeared. 1,000, 10,000, 100,000, 1,000,000. The blood thorns that blotted out the sky and covered the earth locked onto Lin Yu and suddenly fell. The killer move had appeared. In the other direction, Sixth Highness Xinyan was covered in blood. In front of her were the corpses of the ministers who had blocked her, falling one by one. In the direction of Loki's sect, Bai Xuechen held a white jade long sword in her hand. The blade of the sword was already red with blood. The precepts on the long sword surged. In front of her were the corpses of Yin Jian and the other two. The three highnesses joined forces, but they were no match for Bai Xuechen alone. However, at this moment, Xinyan and Bai Xuechen looked at the sky at the same time. There, as the four blood-colored light pillars rushed towards the god-slaying array, the 1,000,000 blood thorns had already fallen. This number, what should we do? Xinyan was slightly injured. Looking at the sky, full of blood thorns, she felt powerless from head to toe. We can't stop it. Zither Emperor's sect is finished. Sect Master is still inside. Oh no, we can't break the array barrier. What should we do? Do we just watch Sect Master die inside? Loki's sect was in an uproar. Bai Xuechen landed on the ground and helped the black and white messengers up. Your Highness, let's go. Bai Xuechen nodded and smiled. Leave with Loki's sect. I'll bring Brother Lin away. After saying that, without waiting for the black and white messengers to react, Bai Xuechen had already left. When Bai Xuechen came in front of Lin Yu, she saw Feng Buxiu's strange behavior at close range. He's not second brother. Who is he? Lin Yu smiled faintly. He's number 1 on the blacklist. Chapter 386. Number 1 on the blacklist. Bai Xuechen was also an expert on the blacklist, but towards the existence of the number 1. Even he had only heard of it. As for who the number 1 on the blacklist was, he had once asked the 7th Highness, Lian Yin. Unfortunately, even Lian Yin, who was in charge of the blacklist, did not know. She only told Bai Xuechen that even an Emperor Lord was no match for the number 1 on the blacklist. He actually appeared in my Zither Emperor's sect. Bai Xuechen's condition was extremely bad, but her eyes were filled with killing intent. No matter what rank you are on the blacklist, you will pay the price today. Unfortunately, you didn't come with your true body. I'm a little disappointed. Lin Yu smiled faintly. Feng Buxiu's pupils contracted. At your age, you actually have such powerful eyesight. I've always suspected that there's something strange about you. Who doesn't have some privacy? Lin Yu said calmly as he looked up. At the same time, he stopped Bai Xuechen. Keep an eye on him. I'll deal with the thing above first. While Bai Xuechen was stunned, Lin Yu had already disappeared from his original spot. When he appeared, Lin Yu was in midair. It's about time. Lin Yu formed a seal with both hands. The thing that the Zither Emperor had left in his body suddenly exploded. Tens of thousands of people from the Loki sect and hundreds of thousands of people from the Zither Emperor sect. In this life and death crisis, everyone's eyes fell on Lin Yu. He still has a trump card. Xinyan's heart beat faster. At this moment, she could only place all her hopes on Lin Yu. At this moment, only he dared to face the millions of blood thorns that blotted out the sky. Feng Buxiu stood with his hands behind his back as he stared deeply at Lin Yu. Zither Emperor's aura? In the sky, Lin Yu found his position. His entire body was bathed in light as he pressed his palm towards the sky above the Zither Emperor's sect. In an instant, in the space above the bloodthirsty god-slaying array, the wind and clouds surged as a vortex that blotted out the sky suddenly appeared. This vortex emitted an ancient aura. Following that, everyone saw the tip of an ancient pagoda break through the air and descend towards the Zither Emperor's sect. Flower blooms, heavens! Everyone from the Zither Emperor's sect felt their minds rumble. They felt as if their minds were completely blank. Lord Confidant, why can you summon the flower blooming opposite shore? Isn't that something that only the Emperor can summon? Their hearts were filled with doubt and astonishment. Even Bai Xuechen, Xinyan, and the black and white envoys were shocked. Lin Yu had actually summoned the Emperor Lord's exclusive skill, flower blooming opposite shore. Not only were the people from the Zither Emperor's hall shocked, even the people from the low-key sect had never seen a flower bloom on the other side of the shore. Sect leader, what did you summon? Lin Yu's hand gesture changed again, and the opposite shore heavenly pagoda descended rapidly, hitting the bloodthirsty god, slaying grand formation squarely. A thunderous boom resounded through the dome, and the sound of the sky collapsing shook everyone's heads. In an instant, everyone from the Zither Emperor's gate who was below the bloodthirsty god, slaying array, spat out a mouthful of blood. It was as if his blood and chi were also affected by the collision between the Great Formation and the ancient pagoda. But in the next moment, this pulling force disappeared. Broken, the formation is gone, and my cultivation is restored. Everyone from the Zither Emperor's gate saw that in the sky, the formation that covered the entire Zither Emperor's gate was pierced by the ancient pagoda. The sound of weapons breaking could be heard continuously. 1 inch, 1 foot, 100 feet, 1,000 feet, 1,000 feet. The 100,000-foot Great Formation was completely shattered, and below the Great Formation, the million bloodthorns were also shattered due to the loss of the Great Formation's main body. Lin Yu's figure shifted again, and he grabbed the Zither Emperor, who was freed from the Great Formation, and threw him to Xinyan below. When Feng Buxiu saw this, his eyes darkened. He wanted to attack Lin Yu, but he was stopped by Bai Xuechen. It's your turn now. Bai Xuechen's foot landed, and the daytime law and lightning law strengthened his body at the same time. His hands turned into afterimages, and the law was activated. He attacked with the Zither Emperor's Gates Supreme Dao Technique. Great Desolate Heaven Imprisoning Palm. But when he attacked with his palms, he felt a fist coming toward him from his abdomen. It was so fast that it exceeded Bai Xuechen's reaction. Boom! The fist force was mixed with the power to collapse mountains and split the earth, and it hit Bai Xuechen. The latter was sent flying and smashed into a stone tower before stabilizing his body. However, Bai Xuechen coughed out a large mouthful of blood and stared at Feng Buxiu in surprise. How do you know the weakness of my Zither Emperor's Great Desolate Heaven Imprisoning Palm? Your father's power is on me. Feng Buxiu laughed and attacked Bai Xuechen again. Behind him, a fierce godlike shadow rose from the ground. The shadow was originally only 300 feet tall, but the moment Feng Buxiu used his power again, it immediately began to absorb the scattered fragments of the bloodthorns. The Zither Emperor's gate had so much blood energy, it couldn't be wasted. Feng Buxiu said ferociously. In an instant, the blood energy from all directions surged toward the shadow behind him. 300 feet, 500 feet. The shadow continued to grow. Oh no, he's absorbing our blood energy. What kind of power is this? His Highness is injured, and the Emperor Lord is unconscious. With only half of our lives left, how can we defeat him? Seeing that the shadow had already reached 1,000 feet, but it still hadn't stopped. Everyone from the Zither Emperor's gate only had darkness in their eyes. We can't beat him. It's impossible to beat him. This is the power of an Emperor Lord. Only the continent of the low-profile sect, when the array formation disappeared, had already connected to the land of Chengtu according to the route that Lin Yu had set at the beginning. There's not much time left. Let's go help the sect master. Under the lead of the 5 immortals, the Wind Moon clan brought the people of the second Elder Palace of the low-profile sect and were ready to go. Wait, I'm afraid we can't help with this matter. In the 11th Elder Palace's camp, Qing, who was behind Elder Shinsui, continued, that power has surpassed the 3rd layer of the laws. Perhaps only the sect master and the people of the Zither Emperor's gate can deal with it. If we go, we will only increase the burden on the sect master. She looked around and said to Shun Si, Master, this disciple suggests that we gather the people of the Zither Emperor's gate and settle them down to heal their injuries. That makes sense. Before Shun Si spoke, Dong Wang Feiyu of the 12 Palaces camp agreed with Qing's words. the 11th deputy elder's words make sense. We will do as you say. The disciples of the Cold Moon Palace and the 12 palaces behind him nodded at the same time. Yao Rao and Chi Yao immediately gave the order. In that case, we will listen to the 11th deputy elder. Qing Good didn't insist at this time and nodded in agreement with Qing Qing's arrangement. As for the first palace, the fourth palace, and the fifth palace, because Qin Ji, Long Lin, Night King Jun Wushang, and other elders were absent, they all listened to Qing Qing's arrangement. The low-profile sect began to settle the injured one after another. Qing Qing even asked the third palace's elder Yang Qing and the deputy elder Jianqi to work with the people of the Sword Clan to set up the Four Swords' 5 ultimate god-killing array to resist. Quick, go to the low-profile sect. Although I've never heard of this sect, the Zither Emperor's Gate owes you a big favor this time. Chapter 387. The status of the low-key sect rose in the hearts of the hundreds of thousands of people in the Zither Emperor's Gate. The phantom summoned by Feng Buxiu was already 1,000 feet tall. Not only that, the sinister head of the phantom was now divided into 3. At the same time, the lava-like skin on its back suddenly split open, and another 4 equally thick arms appeared. 3 heads and 6 arms. Bai Xuechen felt an unprecedented sense of danger. Even when facing the arch, he had never trembled so instinctively. The giant phantom was like a monstrous beast. Its blood-red eyes looked down, treating everyone below as prey. Then, the beast stomped its feet, and the ground shattered. The Zither Emperor's Gate trembled. Bai Xuechen and Xinyan stared at it in shock. It could attack them at any time. Father, after Xinyan settled the Zither Emperor down, the latter had just woken up and immediately saw the giant attack. This power can only be suppressed by the ancestor Zither. It's a pity that I can't summon the Permitha sky. Then, he saw the flower blooming opposite shore sky, hovering above Lin Yu's head. His old face was aghast as he said, Who summoned this? It's my trusted subordinate, Xinyan said truthfully. Only then did the Zither Emperor notice Lin Yu under the Permitha sky. At this moment, Lin Yu looked calm. He even diverted some attention to look at the low-key sect. He was very satisfied with Qing Qing's arrangement. Well done, Lin Yu praised. This had indeed solved his worries. Qing Qing happened to look over. Lin Yu was facing 1,000 feet long beast, but he still had the mind to care about them. Qing Qing couldn't help but smile. You're always so handsome. Lin Yu retracted his gaze and looked up at the beast in front of him. Feng Buxiu was looking down from the beast's head. Die. Confident. Bai Xuechen teleported and came to Lin Yu's side. His battle strength erupted. Day and lightning gathered in his hands, and a zither appeared. Soothing spiritual tune. As the sound of the zither spread out, the ground around Bai Xuechen and Lin Yu shattered. Immediately, the sound of the zither could be seen with the naked eye, for city walls surrounded the two of them as if they were solid. The beast lifted its leg, causing Lin Yu's clothes to flutter. He faintly smiled. You want to grow so big to scare me? Confident, you go first. Bai Xuechen shouted. I might not be able to block this move. It's a power that doesn't belong to this era. It's reasonable that you can't block it. Lin Yu smirked and raised his hand. If you want to fight, let something from the same era fight you. The moment the words were spoken, the ancient pagoda of the other shore, which had been suspended in the sky, instantly disappeared. When it reappeared, everyone heard a thunderous rumble. When they opened their eyes and looked over, they saw the ancient pagoda smashing into the middle head of the ferocious beast. The ferocious beast retreated step by step, its head dripping with blood. The Permitha ancient pagoda was precisely where Feng Buxiu had been at the beginning. However, Feng Buxiu had quickly landed on the ground. Damn brat. You can control the Permitha ancient pagoda. When he wanted to deal with Lin Yu, he saw that Lin Yu had already disappeared. You can't hide. Feng Buxiu's bloody pupils contracted. The space around the barrier formed by Xuechen's spirit-soothing melody suddenly cracked. In an instant, the space was distorted and the barrier was shattered. Bai Xueqin's music was disrupted, and a thunderous rumble came from where she was. At the same time, the Law of Storm arrived and blocked the rumble for a second. When Xinyan retreated with Bai Xueqin, Feng Buxiu realized that Lin Yu wasn't behind the barrier of the spirit's soothing melody. Where did he go? When he was about to unleash his divine telekinesis, he saw that the ground was covered in ice like a holy light, which instantly froze Feng Buxiu. In the distance, Han Wanqing was breathing rapidly. Her hair had turned white, and the power of her constitution had been activated to the extreme. Her wrist was covered in frost. It was the power of her awakened constitution. So powerful. Bai Xueqin and Xinyan looked over at the same time. Back then, the Han family suppressed a descendant who had awakened a constitution for Han Quan. How stupid were they? Our trusted subordinate seemed to have noticed that Han Wanqing's constitution wasn't stable. It seems that she only mastered it after she left the Han family. As soon as Xinyan said that, the ice around Feng Buxiu's body cracked. Ice crystals filled the sky. Frostbody. Unfortunately, you can't even use 10% of its power. Feng Buxiu clawed at Han Wanqing's location. Han Wanqing's eyes widened, and she felt that the space was collapsing. When Han Wanqing wanted to escape, she suddenly noticed that there was a trace of bloody crystal under her feet. The crystal turned into blood and merged into Han Wanqing's body. Even though Han Wanqing had noticed it, she was still one step too late. The blood entered her body, and Han Wanqing's long legs instantly lost feeling. Poison. She widened her eyes. Feng Buxiu stared at her coldly and pressed his hand down. But at that moment, a sacred white light appeared out of nowhere and enveloped Han Wanqing. The space was still crushed by Feng Buxiu, but Han Wanqing's legs regained feeling at the moment of life and death. She had already moved dozens of feet away. Another awakened constitution. Feng Buxiu stared at the shattered space with great interest. A beautiful figure was standing there, emitting sacred light. It was Tang Xian's immaculate combat body. After helping Han Wanqing, she healed the people of the Zither Emperor's faction. Feng Buxiu laughed, and his laughter was filled with killing intent. He didn't expect that there would be two awakened constitutions here. He urged the beast, which was still dripping with blood but had regained its mobility. This time, it didn't attack Lin Yu, but the subtle sect. But at the same time, the ancient pagoda above the beast's head suddenly emitted a zither sound. The sound enveloped the entire Zither Emperor's faction in the blink of an eye. The Archlord recognized the melodious and arrogant sound immediately. The ancestor Zither is Lin Yu. He looked at the top floor of the opposite shore sky in shock. When did he sneak up? Feng Buxiu looked up and gritted his teeth. So you're here. Even he couldn't help but be surprised by Lin Yu's behavior. He was distracted for half a cup of tea, and Lin Yu took the opportunity to go up to the opposite shore sky. As the sound of a zither fell, the beast formed by the blood spikes was the first to be affected. Its body began to collapse. The opposite shore sky rotated in the air. At the bottom of the first floor of the ancient pagoda, a vortex enveloped Feng Buxiu. You want to use the Zither Emperor's power to deal with me? Feng Buxiu laughed. Four golden rings appeared on his hands and feet at the same time. These 4 golden rings appeared from the sound of the zither, and at this moment, they sealed his movements. But Feng Buxiu was still laughing. Unfortunately, your zither sound is still lacking something. Take my final attack. He opened his bloody mouth, and a suction force appeared. A vortex appeared in his mouth. Even though he couldn't move his hands and feet, Feng Buxiu's mouth sucked toward the scattered blood spikes. The scattered crystals of the giant all rushed toward him. Feng Buxiu aimed at the ancient pagoda of the opposite shore sky, where the sound of the zither came from. He spat out a mouthful of bloodlight that could destroy heaven and earth, directly penetrating the top floor. The snow-white world shattered in front of everyone's eyes. At the same time, the delicate figure in front of Lin Yu also shattered. Chapter 388. Saintess E, Dongwang Thiu, Yuinga, and all the people of the low-key sect were furious. They didn't know how Qin Yi, who had no cultivation, appeared outside the ancient pagoda of the other shore. But now, they saw the figure who blocked the fatal blow for Lin Yu. It was Qin Yi. Damn it, the fatal blow didn't hit Lin Yu. Feng Buxiu stared at Qin Yi in surprise. Is that the extreme divine will, which is rarer than the mutant blood body? Qin Yi's figure dissipated. She blocked the blow with the divine will of rebirth and bliss, but she was still too weak to save her life. Brother Yu. Qin Yi looked behind her and saw that Lin Yu was not affected by Feng Buxiu's killing blow. She smiled with relief. Lin Yu disappeared, and when he appeared, he was holding Qin Yi's waist with one hand. The two fell to the ground. Brother Yu, are you hurt? Qin Yi obediently lay in Lin Yu's arms. At this moment, her life force was constantly dissipating, but in her eyes, there was still only Lin Yu. I'm fine. Lin Yu still smiled and shook his head. He wanted to tell Qin Yi that she didn't need to do this. Even if the blow just now could seriously injure him, for Lin Yu, as long as he was still alive, he could heal his injury again. But he couldn't say this sentence. It's good that you're fine. I don't want to be protected by you all the time. Qin Yi coughed twice and raised her hand with difficulty to touch Lin Yu's face. I want to protect you, Brother Yu. Lin Yu frowned and held Qin Yi's hand that was gradually losing its temperature. Don't be afraid. I can save you. No longer thinking about the hundreds of thousands of eyes on him, Lin Yu didn't care about exposing his system. Reset time and space. As soon as he finished speaking, he saw a fist shadow in front of his face. Boom! Lin Yu was sent flying, his face dripping with blood. Bai Xuechen, Xin Yin, Han Wanqing, and Tang Exine appeared in front of Lin Yu at the same time. If you can save her, why don't you try? Feng Buxiu sneered. He was the one who had punched Lin Yu. At this moment, Qin Yi's life was in danger. Feng Buxiu would absolutely not let go of this opportunity to mess up Lin Yu's Dao heart. Dao is above technique? I was imprisoned for 10,000 years. Didn't that old man Hell Supremacy also use a technique to trap me? Why can't I leave this starry sky with my Dao? Feng Buxiu grabbed Qin Yi by the throat. Everyone from Low-Key sect rushed forward. But how could Feng Buxiu give them a chance? With a palm strike, the aura of a peak law realm expert pressed down. The 4-5 ultimate god-killing arrays shattered, and the members of the low-profile sect were unable to take another step forward. This woman is dead, and your Dao is also destroyed. As Feng Buxiu's voice fell, he began to exert force. But suddenly, space and time around him began to reverse. Impossible. The moment Feng Buxiu reacted, he and Lin Yu had returned to where they were a few minutes ago. Qin Yi was once again in Lin Yu's hands, and he had brought her behind Xin Yin and the others. This scene surprised everyone, but Lin Yu had just been blocked by Bai Xuechen and the others, so the space-time reversal had not been seen by others. Even Feng Buxiu could not see any clues. Even his memories had become chaotic because of the change in space-time. Big Brother Yu. Qin Yi's heavy eyelids looked at Lin Yu one last time, and then she let go of him. Space-time. Before Lin Yu's voice fell, an earth-shattering light suddenly erupted from Qin Yi's body. This light split into two, and it emitted a power that was half vitality and half death. This power seemed to be out of Qin Yi's control. With a rumble, it instantly pushed Lin Yu, Bai Xuechen, and the others back dozens of feet. What is that? The Saintess? Why does the Saintess have such a powerful power in her body? The low-key clansmen were extremely shocked. After absorbing the blood, did the rebirth divine sense also awaken? For the first time, Lin Yu looked serious. Qin Yi had sacrificed herself to protect him, but she had unexpectedly embarked on the path of the invincible Empress in his memory. Golden light burst out from Lin Yu's body. When he wanted to approach the vitality and death, he found that his body was rapidly withering. The death energy was the real power of death that brought about decay. 10,000 points, 20,000 points, 60,000 points. Lin Yu's body emitted light from the space-time points to resist the withering of his body caused by the rebirth divine sense. 30 feet, 20 feet. Lin Yu was within 3 feet of Qin Yi. But the next moment, when he was about to resurrect Qin Yi, he saw the divine sense of rebirth in bliss rushing into Qin Yi's forehead. There was a loud boom. Lin Yu reached out and held Qin Yi's hand, but Qin Yi suddenly opened her eyes. Her eyes were full of indifference as she murmured, "From bliss, I fell into the pure land of rebirth. Immortal, indestructible." Only Lin Yu heard this sentence. But the moment he realized that something was wrong, Qin Yi had already disappeared from where she stood. Oh no! Lin Yu suddenly knew what had happened. This was the first reincarnation after the power of rebirth was awakened. Qin Yi had been taken into the reincarnation by the divine sense of rebirth in bliss. The light disappeared. Only Lin Yu was left standing where he was. The saintess has disappeared. How is that possible? What has happened? What was that terrifying light? While everyone was shocked, a figure suddenly appeared behind Lin Yu. The moment the figure appeared, a move that was enough to kill him landed on Lin Yu's head. Lin Yu remained motionless. Even Bai Xuechen and the rest had just recovered from the shock of the light of rebirth. Feng Buxiu. The saintess has left. The sect master has suffered a blow. It's over. Bai Xuechen's eyes widened. She was the closest to Lin Yu with Xin Yin and the rest. At this moment, she burned her cultivation in exchange for extreme speed and rushed toward Lin Yu. "You're a threat to me, so die." Feng Buxiu's cold voice sounded. A bloody fist mixed with the full power of the Zither Empress 3 laws blasted toward Lin Yu. At this critical moment, the Zither of the Zither Empress disappeared from the Nirvana heavens. When it reappeared, it was already in Lin Yu's hands. Lin Yu's fingers moved. It was no longer the melodious music from before, but the music of killing. It turned into sound waves that instantly trapped Feng Buxiu's hands and feet. "Because of you, I might not be able to see her for a long time." When he said this, Lin Yu's heart, which had been calm for a long time, suddenly rippled. At the same time, the Zither of the Zither Empress resonated with it. The golden hoop that trapped Feng Buxiu instantly drilled out a sharp blade. No! The pain of the tendons in his hands and feet being cut came. Feng Buxiu opened his mouth, and the blood energy of the Zither Empress's sect that had scattered in the sky surged again. However, Lin Yu only watched coldly as the blood energy gathered. Yiksha's second move, Eternal Night, descends. Divine ability. When Feng Buxiu stammered out these two words, his senses had already been cut off by Eternal Night. The entire world of the Zither Empress fell into darkness. Chapter 389. When the light reappeared, everyone saw Lin Yu's bloody fist. This fist was glowing with golden light, and it penetrated Feng Buxiu's head at close range. Looking carefully, it went directly into his mouth and then destroyed his entire head. Lin Yu let go of his hand, and Feng Buxiu collapsed to the ground. Lin Yu stepped on him, and the violent power of the golden body was not reserved, and Feng Buxiu's body exploded into a cloud of blood mist. The blood mist dissipated. When everyone thought that Feng Buxiu was going to die, they saw a divine thought suddenly escape under Lin Yu's feet. In the blink of an eye, it was 800 feet away from Lin Yu. This divine thought was invisible and could only be seen with divine thought. When the others reacted, they all thought that Feng Buxiu could use this to escape. Don't let him go. Formation. 4 swords, 5 ultimate god-killing array. Open. Bai Xuechen, Qing Qing, and the others attacked at the same time, but the divine thought was too fast, and they could not catch up at all. Let him be, Lin Yu suddenly said. The zither in his hand slowly loosened, and there was a blood-red silk thread on it. Blood sacrifice heart. At that moment, it was hidden to Feng Buxiu's head. But Lin Yu's real target was Feng Buxiu's divine thought, and no one noticed it. He deliberately let Feng Buxiu escape. Secmaster, are you okay? Qing Qing, Dong Wang Fiyu, Han Wanqing, Tang Xian, and the other girls appeared at Lin Yu's side at the same time. Looking at it closely, one of Lin Yu's hands was still full of blood. His other hand, however, had turned into a charred black color. The bloody hand was naturally the arm that destroyed Feng Buxiu's combat body, but they only noticed it now because it was charred. Tang Xian immediately used her immaculate combat body to help Lin Yu heal. Bai Xuechen and the others also came to check on Lin Yu's injuries after confirming that the emperor was fine. Bai Xuechen stared at Lin Yu's hand in shock. Confidant, when did you get injured? He had been paying attention to Lin Yu's battle, but he didn't know why Lin Yu's arm had become like this. His entire arm was like charcoal, and there was no trace of human skin on it. Lin Yu didn't answer Bai Xuechen's question. He just casually replied that he was fine. The crisis was averted. He also returned to the 6th imperial city under Xinyan's arrangement. However, after Xinyan and Bai Xuechen sent him back, they left. Right now, the Zither Emperor's sect was riddled with holes, and there was no time for them to rest. Sect leader, this injury is very strange. Tang Xian's expression was solemn. Her snow-white forehead was drenched in sweat. However, she was still glowing with holy light as she healed Lin Yu's arm. Han Wanqing helped Lin Yu clean the bloodstains on his body. She had already heard from the other women of the low-profile sect that Lin Yu didn't like to be stained with blood. This is a karmic injury, Lin Yu said slowly, but he didn't continue. This injury was caused by Qin Yi when she opened her eyes the moment he touched her. At that moment, Lin Yu had the chance to reset the system and return everything to its original state. However, the moment this karmic power injured Lin Yu immediately understood that Qin Yi wasn't the first reincarnation of the reborn in paradise. Perhaps she's the second reincarnation, the third reincarnation, or even more. From the beginning, she was the reincarnation of the ancient Great Empress. Lin Yu had this thought in his mind. Then he couldn't use the system's space-time power to selfishly keep Qin Yi by his side. She was already in her own great Tao and would awaken sooner or later. Once I stop the great Tao of karma passed down by the Great Empress, not only will I... Lin Yu looked at his arm that was gradually being cut off by Tang Xian. Even Yi will be devoured by the reborn in paradise. This was the second time Lin Yu felt powerless. The first time was when he was trapped for 100,000 years. No matter how he reset, he couldn't find the woman with 10 points. Now, he found out that Qin Yi was the true reincarnation of the Great Empress. He couldn't stop it either. Otherwise, he would kill Qin Yi. Sect Master? Tang Xian saw that Lin Yu was deep in thought for a long time. She was worried that Lin Yu would be upset because of Qin Yi and couldn't help but interrupt his thoughts. Sect Master, your injury is healed. Good. Lin Yu looked at his left arm. The injury was healed, but there were still traces of the karmic power. He wanted to leave these traces. This was the key to finding Qin Yi in the future. That was why Lin Yu asked Tang Xian to heal him. Otherwise, using the space-time power was the fastest way to heal. About the Saintess, Tang Xian wanted to say something, but stopped. There was a worried look on her face. Qin Yi and Lin Yu weren't officially related, but in the low-key sect, Lin Yu's every move would attract attention. Tang Xian and the others already knew that the relationship between the Saintess and the sect master was unusual. Yi didn't die, Lin Yu said slowly. After all, Qin Yi was the Saintess of the low-key sect. She was also the daughter of the Qin concubine. He had to give an explanation. As soon as he said that, Han Wanqing and Tang Xian's hearts tightened. But the Saintess was hit by Feng Buxiu's killer move. That's right, and the Saintess disappeared after being hit by the killer move. Han Wanqing and Tang Xian said one after the other. This may be a great opportunity for her. Lin Yu stood up. The fragrance of the two women's bodies wafted over. He stretched and thought of the ripples in his heart. Lin Yu asked Bai Xuechen to take the zither to the emperor. At the same time, he asked the people of the low-key sect and the Zither Emperor's sect to block the news. Once the news that the emperor had lost all his cultivation was spread, the Zither Emperor's sect would be in danger. Sect Master. Outside the door, the three sisters and Yao Gu asked to see him. Lin Yu answered. After the four women came in and saw that Lin Yu's complexion had recovered, they were relieved. Sect Master, it's good that you're fine. Lin Yu smiled faintly. How's the situation outside? Dong Wang Fiyu immediately responded with a fist salute. Sect Master, our land has been connected to the Zither Emperor's sect. It has become the 8th land outside the 7 imperial cities. Yao Rao also said, it seems that after this battle, the people of the Zither Emperor's sect are very cooperative. Our people have begun to communicate with the Zither Emperor's sect. Yao Gu added, the 11th Deputy Elder, Qing, is discussing with the Zither Emperor's sect and Shenrusu, the manager of the 7th imperial city, how to treat the wounded. The progress is good. Lin Yu nodded and smiled. Qing has some means. He naturally knew that this was the clever girl's means to win people's hearts. These means were conducive to the development of the low-key sect. Of course, he would not object. The four women reported other trivial matters to Lin Yu again. Once everything was settled, Lin Yu turned to Tang Xian and Han Wanqing and said, about the Holy Maiden, you two only need to inform the elders and the vice-elders. The rest of the disciples will temporarily keep the news from spreading. They guessed that this was the order Lin Yu gave to protect Qin Yi's whereabouts, so they immediately nodded and agreed. After doing this, Xin Yin came to visit. Lord Confidant, the Emperor asks you to go over. Chapter 390. Lin Yu let the people from the low-profile sect leave first. Xin Yin saw that Lin Yu's condition had almost recovered. His breathing was stable, as if he was not sad about the death of that beautiful woman. It's good that Lord Confidant is fine, Xin Yin said. She was not a member of the low-profile sect, so Lin Yu naturally did not need to explain Qin Yi's matter. Seeing Lin Yu nod his head, Xin Yin stepped forward and said respectfully, my confidant has saved the life of our Zither Emperor Gate. Originally, the Emperor wanted to come to you personally, but there's no need to say this. Let's go. Lin Yu interrupted her. The things involved in the Emperor's Gate were too complicated. First, there was a great war, and then there was the merger of the continents by the low-profile sect. If the Emperor Lord came to visit Lin Yu now, where would the Zither Emperor's Gate put its face? Xin Yin didn't need to say it out loud. Lin Yu could guess it. The two of them arrived at the Emperor Hall. Although the Zither Emperor, who was sitting on the dragon throne, looked like he could already move normally. However, the sharpness between his brows had long been weakened. Coupled with the loss of his cultivation, it was a fatal blow to an expert of a generation. Emperor, my condolences. Lin Yu clasped his fists and said. This expert was still an old man, and today he had lost 4 of his sons. Those 4 unfilial sons had long had the intention to betray us. They deserved to end up like this. Lin Yu, you don't need to comfort me. The Emperor Lord raised his hand, and the strength in his tone could be heard. If it was an ordinary old man, he would have already fallen. I called you here because I have 3 things to say. The Zither Emperor suppressed his dispirited mood and said, the first thing is this ancestral Zither. He stood up, picked up the Zither beside him, and handed it over to Lin Yu. The fact that you can let Chun'er give this Zither to me is enough to prove your sincerity. The Zither Emperor smiled amiably. I have received your sincerity, but this Zither has already recognized you as its master. I saw it clearly at that time. Presumably, this is also the ancestor's intention? Lin Yu nodded truthfully and explained to the Zither Emperor what had happened at the top floor of the flower-blooming heavens. The expression of the Zither Emperor changed many times, and in the end, he laughed out loud in relief. I didn't expect that my ancestors divine had already foreseen the crisis that the Zither Emperor's Gate would face today. I am ashamed I was actually plotted against by Feng Buxiu. Fortunately, Lin Yu is here. Lin Yu shrugged. I have my own motives. Emperor Lord need not mind. With that, Lin Yu put away the Zither Emperor's ancient Zither into his storage ring. The Emperor Lord blinked and stared at Lin Yu's actions with his sinister old eyes. He immediately understood. Could it be that this brat had come for the ancestral zither from the very beginning? Of course, the Zither Emperor wouldn't say this out loud. He only smiled awkwardly and said, "This old man's second matter is regarding Feng Bushio." His old eyes became serious. "He's not my son, is he?" Lin Yu nodded. "It should be said that he used to be, but I don't know when he was possessed by someone. Damn it, this person can possess a highness without my Zither Emperor's gate noticing. Even I can't detect it." The Zither Emperor snorted angrily. "Lin Yu, do you know who he is? I believe the First Highness has already mentioned Feng Bushio's identity." Lin Yu said. The Zither Emperor shook his head and said, "Number one on the blacklist. This matter is too strange. Even the 8 great Emperor Lords do not know where that existence is. Why would he appear in my Zither Emperor's gate this time? He is everywhere. At any time, without the Emperor Lord knowing, he will appear by your side." Lin Yu's words were so mysterious that the Zither Emperor's pupils couldn't help but contract. "He's good at possessing others." Nodding his head, Lin Yu said, "Without substance, he can only possess others. Unfortunately, Feng Bushio's body is only one of the divine sense clones." The Zither Emperor was even more puzzled. Without substance, is he just a strand of divine sense? He shook his head in disbelief. Since ancient times, the Black List has always been the standard for the young people of the Star Field to compete for glory. The Zither Emperor recalled, "The Black List is connected to the will of the starry sky. Once an expert breaks through the Black List, it will definitely attract the resonance of the starry sky." After Lien Yin became the Black List emissary, she was responsible for conferring an existence that attracted the resonance of the starry sky. However, the second rank of the Black List has changed, but only the first rank is not within Lien Yin's power. Even the resonance of the starry sky has never produced the first rank of the Black List. Emperor Lord is right. Lin Yu nodded his head and smiled. The Zither Emperor said, doubtfully, "I even suspect that the first rank of the Black List doesn't exist at all. But today, he usurped my Zither Emperor's gate and appeared by possessing my son's body. I am extremely surprised that the most mysterious existence in the starry sky doesn't have his own true face." Lin Yu saw that he wanted to trick him, so he could only spread out his hands. From the end of the Imperial Era to the current era of Tao elimination, a full 10,000 years have passed. Too many secrets of the Imperial Era have been forgotten, and the truth that has been passed down might just be an illusion. For example, the death of the Demon Emperor, or why the 9 Emperors' techniques fell one after another. His words were like thunder, exploding in the mind of the Zither Emperor. The fall of the ancestor has always been a mystery. The Zither Emperor shook his head helplessly. "Not only me, but the current Emperor Lord of the Imperial clan, other than the Heavenly Emperor of unknown origins, the other 6 Emperor Lords also want to know the truth. Unfortunately, the era is too far away. As you can see, if it weren't for you, the ancestral Zither might not have been able to leave the flower-blooming shore. The truth will be revealed. Unfortunately, at that time, perhaps this starry sky will completely change." Lin Yu stood with his hands behind his back. The temperament on his body suddenly changed as he looked at the starry sky outside the sect master's hall. 10,000 years is an era. The era of Tao elimination is derived from the meaning of the elimination of the great Tao. It was chosen by people 10,000 years ago in order to commemorate the fall of the 9 emperors. Now that 10,000 years have passed, a new era is about to begin. Lin Yu's gaze became deeper and deeper. Even the Zither Emperor couldn't help but be stunned. A new era? Yes, a new era. Lin Yu nodded firmly. Since the number one on the blacklist has made his move once, he will make his move a second time. He will start a new era. However, the transformation is destined to be risky. To the starry sky, who can say for sure whether it will be rebirth or destruction? The Zither Emperor's expression dimmed. I have already left my entire life in the era of Tao elimination. It seems that I will have to rely on my trusted aid in the future. Lin Yu didn't answer. The Zither Emperor continued, "My third matter is this. The Zither Emperor took out an invitation. This invitation seemed simple and unadorned, but the moment Lin Yu opened it, he sensed a tyrannical sword energy. An invitation from the Sword Emperor sect. The Zither Emperor patted Lin Yu's shoulder. I want you to go on behalf of the Zither Emperor. However, your identity naturally cannot be the strange position of a trusted aide, but the Zither Emperor's imperial advisor. Chapter 391. The Zither Emperor smiled and said to Lin Yu, "For many years, no one in the Zither Emperor's sect has been qualified for this position. You are the first." After he finished speaking, he expected Lin Yu to be flattered and even shed tears of gratitude. However, the Zither Emperor's expectations were disappointed. Lin Yu's expression was still extremely calm and even a little angry. Zither Emperor wants to use Lin Yu to help you put on a facade, right? The current Zither Emperor's sect had many things to do. It was impossible to recover in a short period of time, especially with the Zither Emperor's injuries. Once they were exposed to the other 7 great Emperor's sects, what awaited the Zither Emperor's sect would be a calamity of destruction. Hee, you're really smart. Even if the news of my Zither Emperor's sect's battle is sealed, it's only a matter of time before people find out. The Zither Emperor knew that he couldn't hide his thoughts from Lin Yu, so he didn't plan to continue pretending. Otherwise, it would cause Lin Yu to feel disgusted. I have a favor to ask of you. Most of the younger generation of the Emperor's sect will appear at the Sword Emperor's sect's Sword Dao assembly. You can use your specialty and cause as much trouble as you want. The Zither Emperor smiled awkwardly. How could Lin Yu not understand what he meant? In any case, let others know as much as possible that the people of the Zither Emperor's sect are still full of confidence, right? Smart. I like to talk to smart people the most. The Zither Emperor patted his chest and said, "Don't worry. The Zither Emperor's sect owes you a favor. Your people are absolutely safe here. Of course, the purpose of your trip is to make sure that no one suspects that my Zither Emperor's sect has suffered heavy losses. On the other hand, it's also to protect the safety of the low-key sect here, isn't it?" These words were half a warning, half a sincerity, allowing Lin Yu to see the situation of the Zither Emperor. "Forget it. Who asked me to borrow your territory? I'll return the favor." Lin Yu spread out his hands, and the Zither Emperor immediately bowed to Lin Yu for the first time, as if he was a peer. "Then I will thank Lord State Preceptor first." The Zither Emperor's gratitude towards Lin Yu was beyond words. She continued, "I will have Lien Yin accompany you. As for Chun'er and Xinyan, they will be in charge of the reconstruction of the Imperial City. I hope you can understand. It doesn't matter who goes." Lin Yu smiled. Since he had already sent Yang Kai to the Sword Emperor's sect, Yang Kai was destined to attend the Sword Dao conference. Now that he could make the Zither Emperor's sect owe him another big favor, why not? Those are two different things. When Lin Yu thought of this, he took out the Zither Emperor's ancient zither. "I accepted the Emperor Lord's treasure for nothing. It's time to heal the Emperor Lord's injuries." The Zither Empress immediately thought to herself, if it wasn't for the ancestors' approval, no one would be able to use this zither. He wasn't going to give up such a great treasure on a silver platter. One had to know that Feng Buxiu had absorbed her cultivation, but when she took out the ancient zither, she didn't even have a chance to resist. As for her injuries, the Zither Emperor sighed. "The injury to my divine sense has been healed, but it won't be of much use." That's not necessarily true. Lin Yu smiled faintly and insisted on healing the Zither Emperor. Since the owner of the ancient zither was willing, the Zither Emperor naturally couldn't refuse. The sound of the zither rang out, and a gentle force slowly spread out from the ancient zither. The Zither Emperor stared at the ancient zither and saw an incomparably white lotus spinning. 10,000 Spirit Resurrection Song. The Zither Emperor's eyes widened. "You, the ancestor, actually passed down this clan protecting song to you." Lin Yu closed his eyes and ignored him. On the ancient zither, his fingers turned into afterimages, and the entire palace was immediately covered by the zither music. Strands of zither music turned into an emerald green brilliance visible to the naked eye. After filling the Emperor Palace, they flew into the sky above the Zither Emperor sect. In the originally lifeless Zither Emperor sect, everyone suddenly heard the zither music. The zither music washed away the haze of war in everyone's hearts. Is that the zither music coming from the Emperor Palace? Is it the Emperor Lord? No, this zither music is similar to the one played by Lord Confidant in Permitha Heaven. Everyone looked towards the Emperor Palace. Bai Xuechen and Xunyan were the same. The zither music of a confidant, Lin Yu, feeling the goodwill and healing power in the zither music, the two of them couldn't help but bow and clasp their fists towards the Emperor Palace. For hours later, the Zither Emperor opened his eyes from his cross-legged meditation. Lin Yu had already left the Emperor Palace. He stood up and suddenly felt that his injuries had all healed. There was even a hidden power in his body. The principle is still in my body. The Zither Emperor shockingly sensed that his cultivation, which had originally been completely lost, had actually reignited at this moment. The 10,000 Spirit Resurrection song, combined with the ancestors' ancient zither, actually has such power? The Zither Emperor was overjoyed. He also clasped his fists in the direction Lin Yu had left. It was just that he still needed a few decades to recover to his peak. However, after Lin Yu left the Emperor Palace, the Zither Emperor's decree was also sent out. The Emperor Lord's confidant, Lin Yu, has made great contributions. Today, Lin Yu is conferred the title of Zither Emperor's Imperial Preceptor, in charge of the 3rd, 4th, and 5th Imperial cities. This voice echoed throughout the entire Zither Emperor's palace. Everyone knelt down at the same time and shouted the name of the Imperial Preceptor in unison. When Bai Xuechen and Xunyan heard this decree, they were even more surprised that the Emperor Lord could still make such a loud noise. Could it be that Father's injuries have healed? Xunyan guessed and denied her own words. No, Father's prestige is not as great as before, but it seems that the power of the principle is still there. It's just that it's very weak now. If she could see it, so could Bai Xuechen. Zither music. Father, thank you. If not for the mission in Bai Xuechen's hands, he would have already gone to find Lin Yu to thank him. At this moment, outside the Imperial Palace, Lin Yu walked out and saw the 7th Highness waiting outside the palace. The young girl who rode the Kuan, Lian Yin. Congratulations, Lord Imperial Preceptor. Lian Yin bowed and thanked him. The Zither Emperor's palace owes the Imperial Preceptor a life-saving grace. Lin Yu smiled faintly as he sized up the 7th Highness in front of him, who looked pretty good. The 7th Highness is well-informed. He knew as soon as he returned. After hearing this, Lian Yin had an apologetic look on her face. Lian Yin happened to not be in the Zither Emperor's palace. After returning, Rusu had already reported everything to me. I have already ordered Rusu to lead the people of the 7th Imperial City to fully cooperate with the Imperial Preceptor's people to rebuild the Emperor's palace. The 7th Highness is considerate, Lin Yu said calmly as he passed by Lian Yin. Lian Yin's heart tightened. She felt that Lin Yu's attitude towards her had become much colder. Is the Imperial Preceptor blaming me for not being in the Zither Emperor's palace when it was in trouble? Your Highness is worrying too much. This Emperor's palace is your territory. What does it have to do with me? Facing Lin Yu's reply, Lian Yin immediately became dispirited. I didn't know that my royal brother had been rebelled. Otherwise, even if the blacklist changed, I wouldn't have left the Emperor's palace. As I said, Your Highness is worrying too much. Lin Yu's expression was still calm. The two of them were greeted by the people of the Zither Emperor's palace and the low-profile sect along the way. Lin Yu's expression was normal, but Lian Yin had a heavy heart. When Lin Yu saw a group of people carrying the remaining blood thorns of the bloodthirsty god, slaying great array and preparing to throw them away, Lin Yu's eyes lit up and he stopped them. I want these things. Chapter 392. Lord Imperial Tutor. When they saw Lin Yu, they immediately knelt down. At the same time, they also saw Lien Yin on Lin Yu's body. This humble one greets Lord Imperial Tutor and Seventh Highness. Rise. Lin Yu's gaze was fixed on the dozen or so wooden carts filled with blood thorns. The leader of the carts replied, Lord Imperial Tutor, please forgive us. These things are very strange. We don't know why we can't put them in our storage rings. We can only throw them on the carts. Of course you can't put them in. Lin Yu smiled meaningfully and looked at Lien Yin behind him. Help me put them in. As he spoke, Lin Yu handed over his storage ring. I heard these are evil things. What do you want them for? Lien Yin didn't understand Lin Yu's current actions. The blood energy inside is very useful to me. Help me. Lin Yu coughed at the same time. Lien Yin immediately asked, Are you injured? After such a big battle, what do you think? Lin Yu asked in return. Hearing this, Lien Yin had no other choice. All right, if Lord Imperial Tutor wants them, I'll give them to you. She formed a seal with both hands, trying to control the blood thorns to enter the storage ring. However, after a long while, the blood thorns didn't react at all. What's wrong? Lin Yu pretended to be surprised and asked. Lien Yin shook her head and stared at the blood thorns. I don't know why, but I can't control them to enter the storage ring with my cultivation. I see. Lin Yu rubbed his chin. With a wave of his right hand, the dozen or so blood thorns all broke free from the ropes on the wooden carts. They turned into a bloody storm and entered Lin Yu's storage ring. I can only do it myself. Lin Yu put away the storage ring and left with his hands behind his back. This time, Lien Yin recovered from her shock and followed Lin Yu. How did you do it? I don't know either. Lin Yu smiled and didn't say anything else. You're acting strange today. Lien Yin grumbled. Forget it. The Emperor Lord wants me to go with you to the Sword Down meet in a few days. Rest well for the next few days. I'll come to look for you again. All right. Lin Yu politely responded with a nasal sound. Lien Yin sent him back to where the low-key sect was, and then left for the 7th Imperial City. Congratulations to the sect master for becoming an Imperial Tutor. Qing Qing's voice could be heard. This beautiful woman had just finished her work and was returning to the low-profile sect. She bumped into Lin Yu and saw that Lien Yin had just left. She bowed to Lin Yu, who helped her up. You've done well during this period of time. Hearing Lin Yu's words, Qing Qing's face didn't reveal any complacency. Instead, she said to Lin Yu in a self-deprecating manner, Isn't this the reason why Sect Master kept me here? Oh. Lin Yu lifted her chin and looked at her exquisite face. Am I such a utilitarian man in your eyes? Sect Master is ambitious and has led the low-profile sect to the Emperor Gate star domain. How can it be as simple as utilitarianism? Qing Qing said again. For such a smart woman, no man would be able to escape her watery eyes. However, Lin Yu was different. He was the first man in Qing Qing's life that she couldn't see through. Even after Qing Yi left, Qing Qing thought that Lin Yu's state of mind would change. However, the truth was that Lin Yu still had a strong enough state of mind to handle all the matters between the Emperor Gate and the low-profile sect with ease. His terrifying state of mind alone was enough to make Qing Qing admire him. Apart from being utilitarian, what else am I good at? Lin Yu let go of her chin. He said something flirtatious, but distanced himself from her. This made Qing Qing even more unable to guess what Lin Yu was thinking. Sect Master is thousands of times better than other men in all aspects. The women of the Zither Emperor Gate and the low-profile sect all view Sect Master as their ideal lover. Is there a need for Qing Qing to say more? Women, then what about the woman you saw just now? Lin Yu raised his eyebrows in the direction of Lien Yin's departure. I heard that Seventh Highness is one of the 3 great beauties of the Zither Emperor Gate. However, from the way she looks beside Sect Master, it's obvious that she likes Sect Master. After Qing Qing finished speaking, Lin Yu's eyes flashed with a sharp light, causing the former to take a step back in fright. Qing Qing said something wrong. She lowered her head, not daring to make a sound. Then I'll give you another chance. Lin Yu's voice sounded. This woman's mind was a talent, but Lin Yu didn't like her being perfunctory with him. This time, Qing Qing didn't dare to be dishonest. This subordinate thinks that Seventh Highness seems to have something on her mind. How can you tell? Lin Yu asked again. This time, Qing Qing shook her head. This subordinate doesn't know either. Seventh Highness hides it well, but my intuition tells me that she's hiding something. A woman's intuition? Lin Yu couldn't help but laugh. Qing Qing thought that he was laughing at her, and felt ashamed and ashamed. Quite accurate. Who knew that Lin Yu would have this second half of a sentence? Qing Qing came back to her senses. Lin Yu ordered again. I still have something I need your help with. Prepare some materials for me. Materials? Qing Qing didn't understand. Lin Yu hooked his finger. The former took a few steps forward, and Lin Yu whispered a long list of names into her ear. Remember? And then go. Lin Yu waved his hand, and Qing Qing left. Others might not remember the hundreds of materials and quantities, but he knew that Qing Qing could. Returning to his sect master's hall, Lin Yu took out the blood thorns. At the same time, he took out the puppet that he refined in the Wangxian sect. It was exactly the same as him. As soon as the puppet appeared, it immediately knelt down towards Lin Yu. Master! Lin Yu smiled and looked down at the puppet. You still have the combat strength of a transcendent realm. You can't help me anymore. The puppet didn't speak because Lin Yu didn't give any orders. But you're different from me. If I want you to become stronger, it's easier than cultivating by myself. After Lin Yu finished speaking, the black and white flames burned and covered all the blood thorns. Go. Absorb as much as you want. After the order was given, the puppet didn't hesitate and dived into the flames. In the following time, Qing Qing sent a large number of materials one after another. Because it was something that Lin Yu wanted, Qing Qing naturally checked it several times before daring to send it over. These materials were refined by Lin Yu one by one. Qing Qing was on standby at the side, but she was shocked by Lin Yu's forging technique. Why is the sect master's forging technique so powerful? She was shocked. The low-key sect also had its own forging palace. Now, Mu Qingqing, who Lin Yu brought out from the Xin sect, was the palace master. But compared to Mu Qingqing, Qing Qing felt that Lin Yu's technique was purer and more powerful. Those materials were constantly fused into the black and white flames. At this moment, the flames were already dyed with the blood thorn's bright red color. The puppet's position couldn't be seen. The entire palace seemed to have become a pill furnace. After Lin Yu finished with the materials, he closed the palace's door. At this time, Lianin rushed to the low-key sect. Lord State Teacher, the spy sent a secret order. I heard that the Medicine Emperor sect was robbed. Chapter 393. Go on. Lin Yu sat on the sect master's throne. Lianin saw that his attitude was becoming more and more distant and pursed her lips. This news came from spy of my zither, Emperor's Gate. The Medicine Emperor's Gate lost an extremely important item. At first, the Medicine Emperor's Gate seemed to be able to hide the news. Lian Yin continued. Unfortunately, the entire Medicine Emperor's Gate couldn't find it, so the news was leaked. The spy said that the item was stolen half a month ago. The Emperor Lord of the Medicine Emperor's Gate was furious. The few law realms involved couldn't find your treasure within the time limit and were executed by the Emperor Lord. Interesting. Lin Yu smiled. He could only think of one person who could enter the Medicine Emperor's Gate to steal something with such courage and ability. The bet is about to start. I have to hurry. What? Lian Yin felt strange when she heard Lin Yu talking to himself. Nothing. Quickly prepare the things to go to the Sword Emperor's Gate. We're about to set off, he said to Lian Yin. The latter blinked. Do we need to set off early? Lin Yu looked at the puppet and said, Tomorrow. It's about time. Okay. Lian Yin bowed and left. In the past, her respectful behavior towards Lin Yu might have been a bit surprising. But now, Lin Yu was the imperial preceptor and controlled 3 imperial cities. His status had surpassed Lian Yin's. These ceremonial actions had become something that Lian Yin had to do. After Lian Yin left, Lin Yu asked Dong Wang Feiyu to empty the cultivation method hall for him and not let anyone in. Born from paradise, falling into the pure land, immortal and indestructible. Lin Yu muttered to himself, recalling Qin Yi's last words before she left. He was the only one who heard it. He was the only one who understood what it meant. Where is the next life? Lin Yu cut his finger and drew a blood talisman in the air. Go ask the master of the underworld, and you will know. The corner of his mouth curled up. As the blood talisman dispersed, an array appeared behind him. Incomparably complex patterns appeared on the array formation, directly locking onto Lin Yu's divine sense. The space-time divine movement technique rotated. Lin Yu was still standing in the same place, but his spiritual will had already appeared below an endless river. The river was hanging upside down in the star, and the river water was yellow in color. Countless souls were drifting unconsciously in the river. Red spider lilies bloomed on both sides of the riverbank. This river was called the Yellow Springs. However, Lin Yu realized that compared to the last time he had seen this place in the Forgotten Immortal sect, there seemed to be fewer souls here. Interesting. It seems that this place has also been affected. Lin Yu reversed his spiritual will and wanted to descend into the Yellow Springs. But suddenly, above the Yellow Springs, a golden array formation erupted. God's sealing array? Lin Yu immediately recognized the golden light array formation. Looks like we can't go in now. He was not careless. The space-time divine movement technique reversed, and his spiritual will had already disappeared above the Yellow Springs. The moment Lin Yu disappeared, hundreds of icy blue chains burst out from the God-sealing array and rushed towards Lin Yu's location. If he was a second slower, Lin Yu's spiritual will would definitely be engulfed here. After Lin Yu left in the Yellow Springs, next to Samsara, on the bridge of helplessness, a pair of eyes gazed at the direction where the God-sealing array was triggered. Only the dead can come in. In the skills hall of the low-key sect. Suddenly, there was a loud bang. With a bang, Lin Yu's spiritual will returned to his body, and he was sent flying backward. When he landed on the ground, he only felt a roar in his head. If it weren't for his powerful spiritual will, he would have died under the residual power of the God-sealing array. Dong Wang Feiyu immediately rushed in and helped Lin Yu up. Sect Master, are you okay? I'm fine. There was an accident. Lin Yu waved his hand and soon recovered his spiritual will. Fortunately, I left quickly. It was the first time that Dong Wang Feiyu saw Lin Yu like this. What is the place that can hurt you? The underworld in this starry sky. After saying that, he ignored Dong Wang Feiyu's shocked gaze. Lin Yu only felt a little pity. When he was trapped in the same day for 100,000 years, he had entered the underworld. But there was no God-sealing array at that time. That thing has to cover the entire entrance to the underworld, which is a troublesome thing. Lin Yu judged that the master of the underworld would not look for trouble in the past. There are only two reasons. First, when I entered the underworld last time, I changed my fate to not be affected by his karma, and at the same time, I alarmed him. The only advantage of being reset was that even if Lin Yu had entered the underworld before, others would think that it was his first time here. But it was different now that he was free. It was reasonable for the master of the underworld to be on guard. If it's not because of me, it's because of that prisoner. He used me to kill the jailer, and millions of corpses disappeared. The Zither Emperor's sect was in chaos. He was testing the bottom line of the Hellmaster. Once he tested the bottom line of the Hellmaster, this starry sky would suffer. Lin Yu touched his chin and concluded that there must be something wrong with the Hellmaster. Otherwise, the Hellmaster was invincible in this starry sky. Why would he use the God-sealing array? Dong Wang Feiyu just looked at him talking to himself and didn't understand at all. What did you say? Nothing. Lin Yu shook his head. Now, if he wanted to enter the underworld, he couldn't use the time and space divine travel method. He could only enter the underworld as a dead man to find out what was going on. It's not time to die yet. Lin Yu stretched himself and looked at the approaching night. How long have I been in closed-door cultivation? Half a day, Dong Wang Feiyu replied. Lin Yu smiled. Then it's almost time. As soon as his voice fell, a blood-red light suddenly burst out from the Lord's palace. The blood-red light soared into the sky, turned into a blood column, and rushed directly to the sky of the Zither Emperor's sect. The sunset glow that had already set seemed to appear above the dome once again. Is that Feng Bushio's array? Why did the array that killed so many of our people appear again? Not only the disciples of the Zither Emperor's sect, but even by Xuechen and Xunyan also noticed it. It's in the direction of the low-key sect. What's going on? The Emperor's voice sounded again. The Imperial Preceptor is studying Feng Bushio. No one is allowed to disturb him. The people of the Zither Emperor's sect were relieved. In the Emperor's palace, the Zither Emperor had just received Lin Yu's voice transmission. He also looked in the direction of the low-key sect and couldn't help but say, "The aura of the bloodthirsty, god-killing array. What is that guy doing?" In the 7th Imperial City, Lien Yin's beautiful eyes deeply observed the blood column. The aura of the Law Realm. Is this the reason why he took away the Bloodthorn? Behind her, a purple-clothed woman stood silently with her head lowered. This woman was not Shenru Su, but a woman Lin Yu was familiar with. In the low-key sect, the blood column lasted for half an hour before dissipating. Lin Yu stood with his hands behind his back, staring at the puppet that had already knelt in front of him. Not bad. You actually absorbed all of them. The bloodthorn and hundreds of materials were all left with charcoal-like residue. He suddenly noticed that the puppet's aura had stepped into the first heavenly layer of the Law Realm. It's a pity that I still lack a handy weapon. Chapter 394. Lin Yu rubbed his chin. The ultimate extinction universe rod was not suitable for the puppet. This kind of killing tool used a sword at the beginning. Ordinary swords can't satisfy you. When we reach the Sword Emperor sect, I'll get their Emperor sword for you to play with. Lin Yu said. The key to the Medicine Emperor sect had probably been taken away. If he didn't act quickly, he would lose to Lin Xiao. The puppet didn't say a word. Lin Yu waved his hand, and it entered his storage ring. The next day, Lien Yin prepared the warship and headed to the Sword Emperor sect with Lin Yu. There were many things waiting to be done in the Zither Emperor sect. After Xinyan and Bai Xuechen saw the two of them off, they continued to be busy. With Bosom Friend's ability, there will definitely be something fun this time. Bai Xuechen couldn't help but sigh. How could Xinyan not see through her big brother's thoughts? How could she not want to go to the Sword Emperor sect with Lin Yu? It was a pity that the two of them couldn't leave. They were different from Lien Yin. His Highness Bai Xuechen was in charge of the first and second largest imperial cities. And Lin Yu even let the two of them manage the third, fourth, and fifth imperial cities. Xinyan still had to preside over the reconstruction of the 7th imperial city without Lien Yin. Forget it, Bosom Friend is already our imperial teacher after all. There will be opportunities in the future. Bai Xuechen comforted herself and left with Xinyan. The warship headed straight in the direction of the Sword Emperor sect. There were more people in the core star field than the inner region. They also encountered many merchant ships like Yangshan's Flying Cloud Merchant Association in the starry sky. There were even some space bandits that specialized in robbing row cultivators. But these people didn't dare to approach after seeing the symbol of the Zither Emperor's sect's warship. Instead, they tactfully distanced themselves. We can reach the Sword Emperor sect in a few hours. Lin Yu stood on the deck of the ship as Lien Yin spoke slowly behind him. Hearing Lin Yu's reply, Lien Yin continued, I heard that the Sword Dao conference this time is also the handover ceremony of the Sword Emperor sect's Sword Envoy Li Chun. Tell me about it. Lin Yu knew about the past of the Sword Emperor sect. However, the recent events, such as the theft of the Alchemy Emperor's Gate, weren't things he could have learned on the day he was trapped. When Lien Yin heard Lin Yu's tone, she finally wasn't as cold as before. She continued, the Sword Emperor sect's Emperor Lord also has a Sword Operator Envoy. The Sword Emissary had always been personally selected by the Sword Emperor and was extremely strict. Everyone who became a Sword Emissary was a top-notch sword cultivator in the Sword Emperor sect. The current Sword Emperor sect's Sword Emissary, Li Chun, was said to have chosen a successor some time ago. His name was Xiao Wushuang. This person's Sword Dao was invincible. He was destined to be the new Sword Emissary. The Sword Dao meet this time is the same as the past. It's equivalent to an open competition between the younger generation of the Emperor clan. Secretly, it's also set up by Li Chun to establish his prestige for Xiao Wushuang. Lin Yu looked at the approaching Sword Emperor sect and murmured with a smile. That old fart Li Chun values his reputation so much that he would do such a boring thing. Isn't he afraid that Xiao Wushuang won't be able to win the Sword Dao meet and end up shooting himself in the foot? Shooting himself in the foot. Lien Yin chuckled. Lord State Preceptor's words are really interesting. However, I heard that Xiao Wushuang is at the peak of the first heaven of the Law Realm, and his Sword Dao has reached the 4th stage. The Sword Dao meet stipulates that one must win with the sword. With this restriction, I'm afraid no one in the younger generation in the galaxy can beat him. Looking at Lin Yu's indifferent appearance, Lien Yin added, "Oh right, Xiao Wushuang is also an expert on the blacklist." "I know." The corner of Lin Yu's mouth raised. After recognizing his opponent, Lien Yin didn't see any fear on his face. "What's my rank on the blacklist?" 10th. Lien Yin said truthfully, "State Preceptor is the only Grand Supreme Realm expert on the blacklist. The others are all in the Law Realm." Lin Yu smiled awkwardly. "Is Li Chen's sword still in his hand?" "Sword?" Lien Yin asked with a puzzled look. "The sword operator holds the Emperor's sword. This is a rule passed down by the Sword Emperor sect for 10,000 years. Lin Yu said, "I'm guessing that with old ghostly Chen's personality, he would only pass the Emperor's sword to Xiao Wushuang during the last battle of the Sword Dao meet." Lien Yin asked in surprise, "State Preceptor has been to the Sword Emperor sect? Why does it seem like he knows the people of the Sword Emperor sect very well?" Naturally, he had learned a lot about the Sword Emperor sect during the 100,000 years he was trapped. Lin Yu smiled and said, "I have a friend who is also from the Sword Emperor sect. I've heard about it." Lien Yin immediately clapped her hands. "Your uncle Yang Kai, who was with State Preceptor before, right?" Lin Yu nodded and smiled. He suddenly thought of his and Xiao Tian Emperor's appearance, who agreed to come to the Sword Dao meet this time. Lien Yin replied, "I've already received information that the ghost sects Xiong Wenlong and his wife Bai Bai are here. Medicine Emperor sects number 1 immortal, Yu Xiao Xiao. Tong Emperor sects young master Sheng Su. Divine Perception Emperor sects Hua Jieyu. And Azura Emperor sects General Emo Lien Tu's only son, Emo Lien Yuni. Including us, there are a total of 6 groups. Only the Heavenly Emperor sect doesn't seem to have sent anyone. Is that so?" It was naturally the best thing that Lin Xiu's people didn't come. At the same time, Lin Yu remembered the names Lien Yin mentioned. Yu Xiao Xiao, Hua Jieyu. They were all familiar names. The two stopped talking. In the blink of an eye, 6 hours passed, and they arrived at the Sword Emperor sect's star field. The Sword Emperor sect's territory seemed to be larger than the Zither Emperor sect's. It was just that the Zither Emperor sect's buildings were more elegant. As for the Sword Emperor sect, most of the disciples cultivated the Sword Dao. The 5 star fields here were connected, and these star fields were the same as the 7 imperial cities of the Zither Emperor sect. They were the 5 major divisions of the Sword Emperor sect. Above the star field, there were sharp sword auras surrounding it. These sword auras were more chaotic, and it was obvious that there were many sword cultivators who cultivated on a daily basis and naturally formed a sword aura nebula. Sword competition, sword forging, sword comprehension, sword forest Emperor star. Lien Yin said to Lin Yu, at the same time pointing to the 5 planets in front of them. The Sword Dao conference will be held on the sword competition star. After Lien Yin finished speaking, she and Lin Yu had already landed on the warship. So it's an esteemed guest of the Zither Emperor sect. I am Mo Shui, a disciple of young Master Wushuang. I welcome you here. The moment the 2 of them came out, the people of the Sword Emperor sect came forward to welcome them. They were 5 young men dressed in Sword Dao robes. Seeing that it was Lien Yin, the Black List emissary, they immediately bowed respectfully. The leader, Mo Shui, had already introduced his name. At the same time, he looked at Lin Yu in surprise. This junior has poor eyesight. Who is this person beside His Highness? Lian said solemnly, My Zither Emperor Sex Emperor Master personally conferred the title of Imperial Teacher. Lin Yu. Imperial. Imperial Teacher? The 5 young men's minds immediately went blank. The seat of the Imperial Teacher was a supreme status below the Emperor Master. However, the 15 or 16-year-old kid in front of them was not even older than them. How did he become the Imperial Teacher of the Zither Emperor sect? If these words came out of Lin Yu's mouth, he would definitely be chased out by these people as a lunatic. Who was Pitifulline, the 7th Highness of the Zither Emperor sect, the Black List emissary? Her words were comparable to the Zither Emperor's, so these people couldn't help but believe her. Chapter 395. What? The Imperial Tutor of the Zither Emperor's sect is here in person. Is this how you treat your guests? Lian interrupted the 5 people's days. Yes. Greetings, Imperial Tutor Zither. Please forgive us, Imperial Tutor. We juniors have offended you. Mo Shui and the others hurriedly spoke respectfully and continued. We have already prepared a guest hall for our distinguished guests. Please follow me. No hurry. Lin Yu smiled faintly. Have the other Emperor's sects arrived? As soon as he spoke, Mo Shui only felt that Lin Yu's expression was solemn and calm, as if he couldn't see his state of mind at all. He immediately felt that Lin Yu was extremely extraordinary, as expected of the Zither Emperor's sect's Imperial Tutor. They are here. The Tong Emperor's sect, the Ghost Emperor's sect, the Medicine Emperor's sect, the Azura Emperor's sect, and the Divine Will Emperor's sect are all here. Mo Shui immediately replied. Then there's no hurry to go to the guest hall. Let's walk around and enjoy the magnificent scenery of the Sword Emperor's sect. After saying that, Lin Yu didn't wait for Mo Shui to reply. He held Lian Yin's hand and walked into the bustling city ahead. Is there anything else, Imperial Tutor? Lian Yin asked softly, but her beautiful eyes were fixed on Lin Yu's hand. She wasn't used to being touched by a man. The two disappeared into the sea of people. The disciple next to Mo Shui asked, Senior brother, will something happen? None of the people from the 6 great emperors' sects obediently went to the guest hall. Do they really think our Sword Emperor's sect is easy to bully? After Mo Shui heard that, he smirked coldly and said, When Master Wushuang wins the Sword Principal meet and takes over the Emperor's sword, he will naturally be able to make these arrogant geniuses submit to him. For now, let them be. In front, Lin Yu brought Lian Yin into an inn and went directly to the 2nd floor. Waiter, have you seen a greasy middle-aged uncle? Lin Yu thought about the characteristics of Yang Kai's appearance. He looks a little wretched and sneaky. The waiter was originally just coming up to order for Lin Yu. He didn't expect to recognize this person, and such a strange person at that. No, I've never seen him before. Hearing this, Lian Yin understood that Lin Yu wanted to find Kai Yang first. Could it be that the Imperial Teacher has already sent Uncle Yang Kai to the Sword Emperor sect? Lian Yin asked. Lin Yu asked, but to no avail. He casually ordered a few dishes and asked the waiter to leave. Smart. You came first so that you can get some of the latest information. Besides, the other Imperial clans will also bring their experts to the Sword Dao meet. Lin Yu pointed at himself and Lian Yin. Just the 2 of us won't be enough. Lian Yin stared at Lin Yu, inwardly thinking, didn't your low-profile sect produce a law realm expert yesterday? Why didn't he bring him out this time? But before she could ask, the streets downstairs were abuzz with noise. Lian Yin and Lin Yu were on the 2nd floor of the inn. The 2 of them looked down at the same time and saw a beautiful woman with a charming figure fall to the ground. This beautiful woman was a little old, looking to be in her early 30s. She exuded the charm of a mature woman. Beside her, a 4 or 5-year-old girl tried her best to help the beautiful woman up, but she was too weak. Mother, hurry up and get up, the little girl shouted. In front of the 2 of them was a group of people dressed in Imperial Clan's attire. The man standing in the middle looked short and was dressed like a young master, but he seemed to be extremely thin and couldn't support the purple robe on his body at all. Bitch, it's your fortune to be chosen by our young master. How dare you resist? Do you know who our young master is? He's our Tong Emperor's sex, young Master Shing Su. If he wants a woman, even if it's your daughter, you have to give it to him, let alone an old woman like you. The 5 burly men beside young Master Shing Su sneered. 2 of them even rubbed their fists and approached the beautiful woman and the little girl. When the surrounding people heard the names of Tong Emperor's sect and young Master Shing Su, they immediately retreated in fear. There were a few people who wanted to be heroes, but at this moment, they retracted their feet. They couldn't afford to offend the young masters of imperial clans. "Little girl, run!" the beautiful woman shouted. "You're not allowed to hurt my mother." The little girl couldn't pull her mother up, so she immediately took a few small steps forward and stood in front of the 5 burly men. She braced herself and wanted to protect her mother. "Yo, you've got guts. Young master, why don't you take both of them?" A mocking voice sounded. One of the burly men picked up the little girl with one hand. "Let my child go," the beautiful woman cried as she crawled up and hugged the burly man's leg. Preposterous. On the second floor of the inn, Lianing put down her chopsticks in front of Linyu. Just as she was about to intervene, she was stopped by Linyu. "State Preceptor, these people are too much. Why did you stop me?" Lianing asked, but Linyu raised his eyebrows and said, "Someone acted before you." Hearing this, Lianing looked down and saw a man who was 7 feet tall and was even taller than the burly men. He had saved a little girl. Meddling in other people's business? After the girl was taken away, the burly man suddenly attacked. Veins popped out all over his body, and his blood chi soared into the sky. A combat cultivator. I heard that people from Tong Emperor's faction are good at physical combat. I didn't expect their aura to be so strong. Everyone was shocked to see that the burly man's body was as red as fire. The power of his blood chi gathered in his hand, and he threw a punch at the man who saved the girl. A mere combat constitution. Take my wind, controlling spell. The man who saved the girl changed his hand seals, and a talisman immediately appeared in front of him. The talisman shone with golden light and formed a wind wall under his feet. The burly man punched the wind wall and felt excruciating pain in his arm. He immediately took a few steps back. The law realm. When the other burly men saw that, they were so afraid that they didn't dare to come forward. At the same time, the beautiful lady behind him was also helped up by an extremely fair-skinned woman. Who is this kid? The 5 burly men looked at each other and could tell that the other party was not to be trifled with. "Hey, Xiong Wenlong, why are you interfering when I'm doing something?" Behind him, young Master Shing Su spoke, and the 5 burly men immediately retreated. Demonic General Lord May's disciple, Xiong Wenlong. So it's him. You have some ability. No wonder you dare to meddle in other people's business. Xiong Wenlong snorted angrily. What kind of ability is bullying women? Young Master Shing Su, if you want to fight, I, Xiong Wenlong, can accompany you. You? He? Young Master Shing Su's short body couldn't help but smile as he bent over. I heard that the last time you fought with me, you used a talisman to summon a puppet, but you were beaten by your own puppet? Hearing that, Xiong Wenlong's face darkened. Don't bring up the past. Today is different from the past. Is that so? Young Master Shing Su's face darkened. Suddenly, his gaze fell on the woman who was helping the beautiful woman behind Xiong Wenlong. Kid, you have good luck with women. This is the woman you just married last month, right? Seeing young Master Shing Su's greedy gaze fall on his wife, Xiong Wenlong was furious. Damn it, if you dare to continue fantasizing about my wife, I'll break your 3 legs. Chapter 396. Brother Xiong, calm down. Do you think I'm a bad guy who covets your wife's beauty? Young Master Shing Su patted his chest and cupped his fists at Xiong Wenlong's wife. Madam, please don't blame me. It was just a misunderstanding. I'll take my leave now. Hearing those words, the crowd were all surprised. This young Master Shing Su was actually backing out? Before Xiong Wenlong and Bai Bai could react, the 5 strong men and young Master Shang Su had already left the crowd. Thank goodness you and your wife wanted to save us. The beautiful woman and her daughter were about to kneel before Xiong Wenlong and his wife. Xiong Wenlong immediately stopped them. I saw injustice on the road. It was my master who taught me. There's no need to be so polite. Then, he looked in the direction young Master Shengsu left. That brat is not easy to deal with. Don't meet him again. Bai took out a storage ring and said, "There's some dazzling bot here. You might need it." "Sister, thank you." The little girl obediently thanked her. The beautiful woman had a difficult expression and was too embarrassed to accept the dazzling bot. However, Xiong Wenlong and his wife had already disappeared into the crowd. The people from Tong Emperor's Gate are used to being arrogant. I've heard about them bullying mortals before. Sigh, it's their fault for cultivating a physique. Each of them has a strong physique. How can others compare to them? Strong physique? Why do I feel that young Master Shengsu is inferior to me? You can't judge a book by its cover. Young Master Shengsu is one of Tong Emperor's top 10 disciples. However, he is indeed a bit thin. I heard that it's because he plays with too many women. The people on the second floor of the inn were discussing. Lianin said to Lin Yu, "Fortunately, young Master Shengsu backed off. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to resist teaching those people a lesson." Her voice was filled with indignation. However, when she finished speaking, she noticed that Lin Yu wasn't looking at her. Instead, he was looking in a different direction. Lianin followed Lin Yu's gaze and saw a beautiful woman surrounded by a group of men. She's Yu Xiao from the Alchemy Emperor's sect. She has always been known as the #1 immortal of the Alchemy Emperor's sect. Lian Yin's gaze landed on Yu Xiao, who was surrounded by the crowd, and added, "She is also an expert on the blacklist." "I know." Lin Yu retracted his gaze and changed the topic. Young Master Shengsu is not retreating in the face of difficulties. Instead, he has another goal. That stinking hooligan. I've long heard that his conduct is not upright. Who knows how many women he has harmed? Lianing gritted her teeth and looked down. She could no longer see the people from Tong Emperor's Gate. Who is he targeting now? I'm just guessing. Lin Yu picked up the teacup and took a sip. His expression was calm, and no one could guess what he was thinking. The two of them strolled around the streets for a while. Women always like to be beautiful, even Lian Yin, who was the emissary of the blacklist. Lin Yu saw that Lian Yin liked a few accessories and directly bought them. Moreover, he was so generous that he attracted the attention of many vendors. "Young master, this jade bracelet of mine is made from the best ancient jade in the South Sea. Miss, you're a peerless beauty. This old man's purple crystal bracelet is the best match for your temperament. Smelly old man, are you trying to steal my business?" "What? This old man wants to steal it. Do you think that broken thing of yours can catch the eye of Miss and young master?" Lian Yin looked embarrassed, but her gaze still lingered on those exquisite ornaments for a while longer. She saw that the vendors in front of her were quarreling. Lin Yu chuckled. "Stop arguing. I'll take them all." After saying that, he threw out more than 3 million dazzling bot. These dazzling bot were piled up like a small mountain, attracting the attention of many people. "Is this enough to buy them?" Lin Yu said calmly. The vendors were already overjoyed. "It's enough. It's definitely enough." "That's right. Young master is so generous. Miss, you're so lucky. Young master is so good to you. Miss, you're so lucky." Lianin was embarrassed by these people's incessant flattery. In the Zither Emperor's Gate, the other servants didn't even dare to speak to her. How could they fawn over her like this? With a flash of light, Lin Yu put all the items in the stall into Lian Yin's storage ring. After doing this, he directly pulled Lian Yin's hand and left the crowd. "Where are we going now?" "The guest hall," Lin Yu said as the two arrived at the Sword Emperor's guest hall. Many of the halls here were already occupied by the other 5 great Emperor's Gates. "Welcome, Zither Emperor's Imperial Tutor, 7th Highness." Mo Shui, who was in charge of welcoming Lin Yu and Lian Yin in the morning, was already waiting outside. "The welcoming hall is just ahead. Please follow my lead," Mo Shui said respectfully. Lin Yu nodded and followed. Imperial Tutor is forthright. I heard that he bought a lot of things for 7th Highness. Mo Shui, who was walking in front, said with a smile, "Imperial Tutor is amazing. He has already become a famous young master on this street." Lian was in a good mood, even though the value of these gifts was nothing to her identity. However, this was the first time she accepted a gift from a man. As for the thousands of gifts sent by the Emperor's Gate's pursuers in the past, she had never accepted any of them. The higher the status of a woman, the more she would look at the person when accepting a gift. Hearing Mo Shui's words, Lian felt the ridicule in his tone. Didn't this mean that Lin Yu didn't have a reputation before? Now, he had spent some dazzling bait to buy some fame in the mortal world. Lian wanted to fight for Lin Yu, so she replied, Imperial Tutor is already a famous person. Why do you need to be famous? Of course, of course. Mo Shui hurriedly nodded and said, I wonder if Imperial Tutor is a disciple of Zither Empress. I see that Imperial Tutor's appearance is extraordinary and his temperament is excellent. He seems to have the demeanor of Zither Empress. These words confused Lian. She couldn't figure out what this person from the Sword Emperor's Gate meant. You talk too much, Lin Yu suddenly said coldly. This was the Sword Emperor's Gate's home ground. Naturally, Mo Shui had already expected this guest temper. He didn't panic at all. Imperial Tutor, please forgive me. I'm just doing my duty. Before he could say the word here, Mo Shui saw Lin Yu's gaze. This gaze was calm, but he looked over as if he was looking at a dead person. This caused Mo Shui and the few followers beside him to feel their hair stand on end. If they continued to ask, they might die. This was the only thought they had now. Lin Yu glanced over, and the road became much quieter until the two of them arrived outside the exclusive guest hall. You may leave. When Lin Yu's voice sounded again, Mo Shui and the rest nodded in shock. They actually forgot to bid farewell to Lin Yu and walked away in a panic. The two of them entered the guest hall. It was already dark. Lian bowed to Lin Yu. I'll return to my room first. Imperial Tutor, you can call me anytime if you need anything. Lin Yu acknowledged and also returned to his room. I've been shopping all night and made a lot of noise. Left Emissary Yang should know that I'm here. Just as Qing had said, Lin Yu's actions were very purposeful and utilitarian. Behind every action, there was a motive that others couldn't guess. At this moment, the moonlight shone on the ground, and the noise outside also stopped. The dead silence of the night arrived. Lin Yu changed into a set of black clothes and rubbed his chin. According to my understanding of that brat Shang Su, he should make his move tonight. With that, Lin Yu sneaked out of the room and headed to the guest hall where the ghost gate was located. Chapter 397. The night was hazy. Lin Yu circled around the Sword Emperor's Sex patrols one after another and gradually approached the Ghost Sex guest hall. At this moment, Lin Yu was quietly standing on top of an old dark green tree. The black-clothed Lin Yu blended in with the old tree. Even if one looked carefully, ordinary people would not be able to see that there was someone on the tree. The moment Lin Yu arrived, another black-clothed person came from afar. Today, there's only one person near the inn who likes to meddle in other people's business like me. Interesting. Lin Yu faintly smiled and vaguely guessed the other person's identity. However, before he could think further, he heard Xiong Wenlong and his wife, Bai, making all kinds of strange noises. Lin Yu's divine will blocked his own aura. The two people did not notice him at all and seemed to be releasing themselves to their heart's content. Unfortunately, after a few minutes, the noises stopped. Lin Yu knew that Xiong Wenlong was done. After another cup of tea's time, Xiong Wenlong's snoring sound came from inside. The door to the sleeping chamber was opened. The Sword Emperor's Sex guest hall was divided into the main hall and the sleeping chamber. The two halls were connected to each other. At this moment, an enchanting figure slowly walked out. Her white skin was slightly flushed. In addition, her gauze pajamas were slightly messy and the straps were on the verge of falling off. If any man saw her now, he would definitely have dirty thoughts about her. Sigh. Bai leaned against the white jade fence outside the sleeping chamber and sighed. Her face was full of dissatisfaction. Lin Yu was not the only one who saw this scene clearly. Even the slender black figure on the other old tree, who was meddling in other people's business, saw it clearly. Lin Yu had already noticed this person's existence. The advantage of the divine, well, Grand Supreme Realm, was that it allowed him to hide his aura first and prevent the other party from detecting him. After Bai stared blankly at the moonlight for a while. She wanted to return to her sleeping chamber, but suddenly a gust of night wind blew and closed the door of her sleeping chamber. Who is it? Bai furrowed her brows as she realized that this was no ordinary wind. But just as she turned around, her shoulder was struck by a palm. This palm suddenly appeared in the darkness of the night. When she reacted, she immediately retreated. Whitey's delicate face was filled with fear because 8 green figures had appeared in the night. Of these 8 people, 6 were at the peak of the Grand Supreme Realm, and 2 were already at the first firmament of the Law Realm. Husband, things weren't looking good. When Bai wanted to turn around and wake Xiong Wenlong up, he felt his mind go blank. He immediately felt dizzy and staggered a few steps, unable to say a word. This mind-severing palm is a move that I specially practice to help my young master catch women. You won't be able to withstand it. The leader of the green-robed men snickered and reached out to grab Bai Qing's shoulder. The latter wanted to resist, but although the force of the palm on her shoulder didn't injure her, it carried a numbing poison that spread throughout her body. Unable to exert any strength, he fainted and was taken away by the 8 men in green. Young Master Sheng Su is still the same as before. On the old tree, Lin Yu could still hear Xiong Wenlong snoring. He had learned about Xiong Wenlong during his 100,000 years of imprisonment. Once this kid fell asleep, he wouldn't wake up even if the sky collapsed. Lin Yu remembered that Mei, as a ghost general, had no choice but to take in a disciple, so she randomly took in someone with a good character. As for aptitude and other things, Mei didn't care. Lin Yu used his divine telekinesis to scan another tree. The black-robed men who arrived at the same time as him had already caught up with the group that kidnapped Bai Qing. As they moved, Lin Yu also followed. In the night, 3 groups of people chased after each other. Lin Yu didn't move at full speed, but let the black-robed men in front go first. Let's see if it's that girl. Lin Yu pondered and quietly followed. The group that kidnapped Bai Qing had already circled into the forest beside the guest hall. Stop right there. In front of him, a crisp female voice sounded. Lin Yu stopped. Just as he entered the darkness, he could already hear the sounds of battle. The power of the Grand Supreme and the laws formed a terrifying storm. The grass and trees in a radius of several zhang were torn apart. As for the woman who blocked the 8 black-robed men in the beginning, she was forced to retreat step by step after the 8 of them took turns fighting her. I was wondering who dared to play hero. So it's a second-layered heaven expert of the laws. No wonder you dare to block us without fear of death. Although your combat strength is strong, you can't stop the 8 of us. Big brother, I think this person is also a woman. Young master has Xiong Wenlong's wife to be happy tonight. We can't bear the loneliness. Third brother's words make sense, but it's just one woman. How are the 8 of us going to split her? The leader joined forces with the other 2 black-robed men. The 3 of them once again exchanged blows with the black-robed woman. The latter had 2 laws intertwined in her hands, forming a tyrannical chi wall. Break her laws, then break her body. Second brother, how do you know this slut's body hasn't been broken by other men? Second brother, I played with more women than you have. Fourth brother, you should learn from me. When the black-robed woman heard these humiliating words, how could she not understand that they were purposely saying them to mess with her Tao heart? Her divine perception landed on the unconscious Bai Sei. After calling out several times, she still didn't see any response. I've overestimated myself. The black-robed woman only revealed the upper half of her face. At this point, she already knew that the situation was unfavorable for her. She frowned. I've underestimated the people of Tong Emperor's Gate. I didn't expect you to mobilize so many people to capture a woman. Outside the Qi wall, the black-robed men exchanged glances. Big brother, since she knows our identities, all the more we can't let her live. We can only take her down now. Otherwise, we'll definitely ruin young master's plans. How are we going to split the spoils if we take her down? Why don't we let the big brother go first? The other 7 were immediately unhappy. Big brother, those mortals can attack in groups of 3 or 4. With our realms, it won't be a problem. I agree with second brother. Big brother, you're too selfish. When the black-robed woman heard these words, she couldn't hold back anymore. Shameless. None of the people from Tong Emperor's Gate are good. She unleashed her combat strength and actually took down the Chi wall. She's finally been tricked. Capture her alive. The 8 black-robed men were overjoyed. Their bodies shifted, and their coordination was flawless. In just an instant, the black-robed woman's attack missed, and countless illusions appeared in front of her. 8 elements beast-trapping formation. The 8 of them shouted in unison and unleashed their full combat strength, forming a terrifying storm barrier that surrounded the black-robed woman. The black-robed woman felt great danger. The long sword in her hand was suddenly unsheathed, accompanied by the rumbling of laws. Rumbling thunder divine sword. I heard that this sword belonged to a third firmament of laws expert 1,000 years ago. It once killed several third firmament experts. It's actually in the hands of this *TCH. Looks like she has some background. She must be from the Emperor's Gate. The woman couldn't care less about these people's shock. She gathered laws on her wrist and slashed out. Instantly, lightning and laws appeared at the same time. Block. The 8 of them shouted in unison again. The beast-trapping formation was suddenly plated with layers of golden light. The rumbling thunder divine sword slashed on the formation's barrier, and the ear-piercing sound of metal colliding rang out. The woman retreated to the center of the formation, her arm trembling. The rumbling thunder divine sword is only SOSO. This girl's sword Dao isn't that great. Mocking voices rang out again. The black-robed woman saw the beast-trapping formation shrink toward her and crush her. 30 feet, 20 feet, 10 feet. The corners of the black-robed woman's clothes whistled. 2 laws were already prepared to converge between her brows. I'd rather die than die in the hands of shameless people like you. Her action was to self-detonate her cultivation base. Cough. Can you count me in? All 9 of us together? However, at this critical moment, a few young men's coughs suddenly rang out. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.